is up, everybody? How you doing out there? Thinker St. James here, back with you once again. Hope you are having a fantastic whatever day of the week this is. What is this, Wednesday, I think? Any which way, the days all kind of bleed together when you are as busy as your boy, but I am never too busy to be hanging out with the homies, watching some MMA-related content. We've been a little bit light on actual fights this week. I was coming home yesterday and looking through Grabaka, and there was just nothing last night. I mean, really. There was maybe one or two things that might have been behind the paywall, but as far as active fights being streamed on YouTube Live, there was not a whole lot, and I don't think that there was anything today at all. I think today was just a desert as far as live fighting goes. Maybe there's something that I might have missed, but either way, no fights. Does not matter. We are still here. We are still rocking. We are going to be watching some MMA-related videos, and today we have a very special addition to the stream. I want to read this to you, okay? This is something that I posted in the Discord. Again, of course, if you are not in the Discord, if you are here, I see the chat going already. I will be with you in just a moment, but to anybody who is here, and you are not in the Discord, what are you doing with yourselves, people? Exclamation point Discord. You type that into the chat. It'll get you the link. You can hang out with us in the Discord. We are talking MMA all day, every day, 25/8 in the Discord. But so in the Discord today, I posted this, and this is what we are going to be doing after we watch Purple Belt Analytics here. Very interesting stuff we're going to get into, but this is for after that. I said that today we are going to be doing something new. I am going to be taking suggestions for videos to watch from the chat. We're going to be watching them as long as they are MMA related. I have the stipulations here. So I want to read you the stipulations, okay? So just know, these videos that we're going to be watching from Purple Belt, these are all shorter videos. You can see this one's 6 minutes, this is 6 minutes, 4 minutes, and 4 minutes, basically. So only, 25 minutes or whatever that all equals out to. Under a half hour worth of videos from Purple Belt Analytics. I'm going to be taking your suggestions for MMA-related videos right after we are done with Purple Belt. But these are the rules, okay? So if you are not in the Discord and you did not have the opportunity to pre-select some videos, these are the rules that you must follow. 1, it has to be related to MMA in some way. We're not watching just random videos here. It's got to be something MMA related. It can be loosely MMA related, but it has to have some connection to mixed martial arts. Number 2, the video cannot violate any TOS when it comes to YouTube or any other streaming platforms. I know that seems like it should be inherent and that if it's posted on YouTube, it should already not be violating TOS. Use your best judgment with this. Consider the health and vitality of the Yama stream when you're picking your videos. I want to make sure that the channel stays on YouTube in good standing. So help your boy out with that, all right? So that's 2. Number 3, it has to be under 30 minutes in length, okay? We can't be watching hour-and-a-half long videos here. Under 30 minutes is the cap-off on the video length. And number 4, no videos from Matan Evan on this stream. Reason being, I'm not saying I don't want to watch Matan. We're going to be doing a ton more watching of Matan. We're just not doing it tonight. We will put all of Matan stuff into an additional stream, probably either this week or next. More likely next week we'll do another Matan watch. I heard that Sean O'Malley and Tim Welch were on his show recently, so we've got that. I believe we have Rampage Jackson. I think we have Mayhem Miller on there as well. So we've got more Matan coming in the future, so just leave Matan out for right now. So really your only rules are under 30 minutes, MMA related, don't violate TOS, and again, not Matan. So those are the rules for the videos. We're going to get into Purple Belt Analytics, and I'll explain a little bit about this in a moment before we start. But before we get into any of that, gotta shout out the chat. Appreciate you guys being here early. Meat Rocket is here first. He said he was first, and he absolutely was first, and he got the first like. Meat Rocket, you are goated today, sir. Congratulations on being first and closest to the pin. Appreciate that, my guy. Thank you very much for being here. I always have to shout out Meat Rocket because anytime that I am watching MMA-related live streams, for fights that is, I go into the chat is going, I see the chat going, and Meat Rocket is just in there trolling other people in the chat, and it makes me laugh. So Meat Rocket, you are a legend, sir. Chase is here as well. CP, what is going on, my guy? Always good to hang out in the chat. See, this is the thing about the Discord. That's what I meant, the Discord. this is the thing about the Discord. You don't only get me. You also get to hang out with the goated co-host Chase Parton in the Discord. He's always throwing stuff in there. You get to learn insider information about the best candy in all of the United States from Chase. No one knows the game better. So keep that in mind. If you're on the fence about joining the Discord, there's more than just myself. There is also Chase and a bunch of other amazing individuals, some of which are also in the chat right now. Rick Allen not among them, but he is here too. Rick Allen, good to see you, brother. Is post-Turkish hair transplant Piper a new mythical fighter, do you think? Reinvented dome, reinvented fighting style too, you think? I think I saw you post this on the podcast. Probably not. I don't think that the hair transplant's going to change Joey Piper very much. It certainly is not going to give him any more knockout power, even though apparently he already has all the knockout power he needs. He must just not be using that all the time. All that knockout power and not able to knock out Kelvin Gastelum. Granted, he is one of the iron chins of the sport, but still, got to be doing that. That's how you would differentiate yourself. You knock out the unknockoutable guy, then you become a legend right there. Maybe then he would have been that through the power of the hair transplant, but not enough. Not enough indeed. So, post-Turkish hair transplant, shaved low. Yes, that is also a thing. Chase is very correct. Post-Turkish hair transplant, but also, bro still cuts his hair super low, so why even have the hair transplant in the first place? You could do like my homeboy did. Not going to name names, but somebody that I know is a bald guy, and he got that micro dot tattoo on the head that basically makes it look like you just always have a shaved head. He says he loves it. So maybe Joey Piper just did the wrong thing. He wasted a whole lot of money. He could have halved that. He could have spent half the money and got himself a hair tattoo, and he would have been straight if he wants to just shave it low anyway. But then again, Joey Piper, probably not the brightest guy on the roster if I had to wager a guess, but no hate to the guy, even though he has hate for certain countries south of the border. CTE is here. That is another goated individual that you can find in the Discord if you are not already a member. I had this guy's videos queued up for you. Okay, great. You've got videos on deck. That sounds good. I don't know if they're going to come through on the restream. I'll have to maybe give me a minute. I'll figure that part out. Give me a minute after we go through. Oh, you mean you had Purple Belt queued up? Perfect, bro. Yeah, Purple Belt. I just found out about Purple Belt analytics over here. Dude's only has 4 videos out. He's already got more subscribers than Yama, so this guy must be doing something right. I saw a little bit of one video, and I found out that he was apparently a data analyst, and I was like, this is right up our alley. So obviously, for MMA nerds crossed with analytical-minded people who want to go dig deep into the stats and find things out, this is going to be good for us. We're going to get into this in just a moment. The answer to the first video is no, Brits cannot wrestle. Safe to watch. Well, we're going to get the empirical data to back that up or deny that, Rick Allen. So give it a minute. If your hair goes, are you going to do a transplant like Piper or just let it go? Oh, just let it go, brother, all day long, dude. All day long. No fucking way am I doing any kind of actual transplant. In fact, I mean, really, like, my hair is not going, but I have, because I've talked about this on stream before, but when I was born, they had to crush my skull. Like I had to be like, kind of like, I don't know, they had to extract me in some way. There were some complications. So I actually have a ridge in my forehead from when they did that. And so where that ridge lines up right here on my hairline, you can see that it's a little bit lighter. Like, I actually have what looks like a little bit of a natural part, but it kind of just looks like I'm missing a patch of my hairline. That's because of like how they had to like pry me out basically. So yeah, where my finger is going right now, you can see it kind of like, I can make this little like line up my forehead. And so like the hair is like light there. It kind of doesn't grow as much as the rest of the hairline. I've already been like thinking about if I'm going to do anything about that or whatever. No one seems to notice or care about it, which I really appreciate, but I notice. So I'm like, I mean, maybe I would do something. And then I think to myself, I'm like, bro, what are you're going to like get like some fucking like hair thing there? No, give me a break. So I'm like, nah, dude, if the hair goes, the hair goes. That's the will of the universe right there, man. I'm not worried about any of that. Again, what I would say to that too is if it's something that you are self-conscious about, that's your business and you can do whatever you think is best. What I say to that is that, often people will recognize, we're talking about Joey Piper and the hair transplant because people notice. So it's like, if it makes you more confident, then okay. But like it comes with the stipulation that you are also going to have conversation surrounding it. So like, I guess feel good about having the hair on your head, but also know that like people recognize that, they see that. So that's number one. Number two, I know so many bald dudes who slay when it comes to the ladies. So what the fuck's the difference? Again, if it's something that you yourself care about, then fine. But if you're doing it for like, because, oh man, chicks don't dig bald guys, trust, that is not true in the slightest. I know plenty of dudes who do very well with women, not a follicle on the top of their head. So they had to do a C-section to get you out. No, it wasn't a C-section. It was, honestly, Rick, if you're interested in what the actuality of it was, I'll ask my mom, because I honestly, I don't know. I just know that there were complications when I was born. I had like jaundice and some other issues. Like I think that it might have been an umbilical cord wrapping situation. I really don't know all of the details off the top of my head, but I'll find out. I'll ask my mom next time I talk to her. Hey, Beeb is here. Another goat who is not in the Discord. This hurts my heart because I love Beeb so much. Nothing a Sharpie can't fix. Big facts, bro. I need to just get a Sharpie and fill it in right here on stream. That would be kind of funny. And Beeb with the catchphrase when Rick is in the chat. Oh, the two of you. Keep it civil tonight, guys. Come on. We're going to have fun. That being said, I think it's time for the headphones to go on. And we are going to get in on some of these videos here. Jaundice is fairly common, though not that big of a deal. You just need to be popped into an incubator. Yeah, well, I had to be popped into the incubator, and I had to stay in the incubator for like multiple days. Like my parents weren't able to take me home from the hospital the day that I was born, so it was kind of a it was like multiple things basically. Like from what I understand, I'm somewhat lucky to be alive. And then based on other things that I've done to myself, I'm very lucky to be alive. So your boy has seen some shit, but we fight on. That is why the phrase exists around here. As always, fight on. I don't know if you guys have picked up on this, that I sign off most of the streams and most of the videos that I do. Maybe not most of the videos. I should probably throw it into the videos more often. But most of the streams, pretty much the podcast and any other live stream that I do, you know that I sign off, as always, fight on. And that comes from a dual meaning in a deeper place. Obviously, because we are talking about fights, that's one meaning. But the other meaning is basically the Serbian idea of inat. We do not give up around here. We fight on. So there you go. There you have it. And what we have here coming up, let's start it. You want to go in? Let's go in actual posted order. We'll start off with the quickest one first, and we'll go in order of posting. So this is the oldest video on the channel. The evolution of BJJ in the UFC. Data Analyst explains UFC submissions over time. This is going to be interesting.
This graph.
Hold on. Let me turn this up a little bit here. Let me know if the audio is okay, if you can hear it out there.
This graph shows the percentage of UFC fights in a given year that ended in submission. The first thing you'll probably notice is that the submission rate goes down pretty sharply between 1994 and 2002. Why is that? One way we can explain this decline is the Gracie effect. This is Royce Gracie. Between 1993 and 1994, Royce won 11 UFC fights back to back, submitting 10 opponents and TKOing another. Gracie had a competitive advantage over his opponents. It was something called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. In tournaments designed to determine the most effective martial art, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was king, and as a result, people started learning it. But if people start learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, why would the submission rate go down? The answer, knowledge diffusion.
Yeah, there you go. This is already absolutely crushing right now. Two things I wanted to say. One is that I probably could have, guessed that was going to be the answer to the question. But two, I did not know that Royce Gracie had a TKO on his record. Who the fuck was that guy? Who the fuck got TKO'd by Royce? Brother. Come on, dude. You cannot get TKO'd by the originator of BJJ in MMA. This is a problem. That is a person who should not have been stepping into the cage in the first place. 326 looks thin, bro. Are you stoked for Rousey versus Carano? Oh, yeah, I guess we should talk a little about Rousey versus Carano. 326, I'd have to look at it. You know me with these cards, bro. I pay attention to the cards when they're in my purview, bro. Like I have to go week by week. I don't know all of the details of the cards as they're being announced, but everything has to be tempered with the knowledge that the White House card is essentially, as what Dana said, that should be done. The bout order and the fights for the card. So just realize that everything is surrounding the White House card right now. That's number one. Number two, Rousey versus Carano. Am I stoked for it? No. Am I going to watch it? Of course. I think that really what I would say is that I'm more interested in in MMA on Netflix. That's interesting to me. I'm interested in MVP, Most Valuable Productions. That's Jake Paul's promotion, being the promoter of this event on Netflix. How's that going to look? How are they going to play into the space? What are they trying to do? What's the undercard look like? Etc. As far as the fight itself goes, this is another fight that's 15 years too late, and I really wouldn't care about it all that much, even if it was the fight 15 years ago, to be perfectly honest. Because Gina Carano, as much of an absolute pioneer of the space as she is, and I give Gina Carano all of the respect in the world for being an originator of women's MMA. God, this BJJ keeps fucking with me. Of women's MMA, I give Gina Carano all of the respect in the world. She is an originator. She is a pioneer. She was doing it before women were doing it. That being said, she's of an era where the skill gap is that much greater than when Ronda was in active competition. So you've got Ronda, who's already way lower than the skill threshold now. Ronda's here. Carano's here. Skill nowadays is here. I don't know if you can see all of that with where my hands are, but so Ronda, Gina, skill now. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I mean, is it going to be interesting to see them both come out of retirement this late in the game and toss around a little bit? Sure. Is Ronda going to try to armbar her? Sure. I mean, it's a 5-round fight. I guess that's somewhat interesting, but really it's just, it's from a bygone era that is only surviving off the names themselves. The way that I would describe this is, if you are excited about this fight, you are probably excited about Floyd Mayweather and Mike Tyson as well. That's another fight that I could not care less about. Excuse me. I'm getting over a cold, so if my voice sounds a little weird today, if I choke on some stuff, it's because of that. But do I care about the Tyson and Floyd Mayweather fight? Absolutely not, especially not after Tyson versus Jake Paul, and I will not be streaming that one. So just so you're aware, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing Mike Tyson versus Floyd Mayweather. I could not care less how that fight goes. So that's a long way of saying, yeah, am I going to watch Ronda versus Gina? Obviously. Is Gina, and to a lesser extent Ronda, still extremely sexy? I think that goes without saying. Gina Carano is an amazingly attractive woman. All of those things being said, the fight itself, who gives a fuck? It'll be fun. It'll be fluffy. Hopefully the undercard will be decent. That'll be interesting. That's really how I feel about that. If you knew a body triangle at UFC 1 through 10, then you just won. Yeah, there you go. That's basically where we're getting to in this video. Yeah, we'll get back to the video in here in a second. Also, think about it. Even 5 to 10 years ago, the Von Flu wasn't even well known. True. Very true. Absolutely. I mean, think about the fact that the Von Flu was named after a dude who was on The Ultimate Fighter. Am I wrong? So, I mean, that speaks volumes in and of itself. Carano looks big next to Rousey, bro. They aren't even the same weight class, are they? I mean, that's good. That's an interesting point. I don't know what weight they're supposed to be fighting at. Gina definitely is taller. I don't know. That we'll have to find that out. I guess those details will come out over time. But yeah, I guess that adds another element to it, perhaps. Maybe they're doing a catch weight. I don't know. But again, it's just like, I don't know. I feel it's somewhat of a sideshow attraction. But if it puts asses in seats, if it puts eyeballs on product, there you have it. And these eyes will be on it. Jonathan Dongington is here in the chat. John Dong, how you doing, brother? Good to see you, man. Boxing is dead. Name the last person to say if Floyd Mayweather is my favorite combat sports athlete. Yeah, nobody. I mean, nobody outside of boxing. I'm sure that maybe boxing fans might be able to say that. But even boxing fans shouldn't say that, bro. Floyd was just good at doing one thing very well. If there's any real boxing fans out there who would say Floyd is my favorite boxer, nah, that's casual boxing shit. People's favorite boxers should be Terrence Crawford, fucking Alexander Usyk. I mean, like those guys, even Tyson Fury gets more praise out of me than fucking Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather was just a smooth criminal, you know? Extreme defense, which is the best base for boxing, which is why boxing absolutely blows. But I digress. Back to the video.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was no longer reserved for an elite few. As more people sought it out, the playing field was leveled. It became the original base for MMA.
Bro, Just Bleed Guy. Could you imagine Just Bleed Guy with an actual blue belt? That could be a problem, bro. You just encounter Just Bleed Guy in the wild and he just fucking throws the triangle up in the middle of the street.
And as the skill gap narrowed, the submission rate fell. This is accentuated by the fact that BJJ defense improves faster than offense. This graph represents your BJJ.
I was just to say, that's an interesting point that he says that BJJ defense improves better than or quicker than offense. I don't think I ever really considered that, you know, like that's could be the truth, but it does track, you know, because obviously your instinct is going to, and your instinct and probably, I mean, CTE and John Dong can tell me if this is correct, but I would suspect that they teach you defense first, right? I mean, the easiest way to stay in a fight is to be able to keep yourself in the fight, a la defense, I would think. So that makes sense. Defend the chokes, defend the positions, and keep yourself active in the fight. That tracks. Offense, I would think, comes secondary. Much easier to survive than impose your will on someone else. There you go. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. That makes sense.
By the fact that BJJ defense improves faster than offense. This graph represents your BJJ journey.
Huh.
Let's look at your first year of training. The average number of submissions you can pull off in a given session goes from 1 to 2. The number of times you're being submitted, however, drops from 10 to 4. Your defense improves quicker than your offense, and as a result, submissions overall become rarer. Anecdotally speaking, I think most grapplers would attest to this.
Is this guy like the new most goated channel on YouTube? This is absolutely fascinating to me. Like, granted, obviously this is anecdotal as he said, but I mean, I would think that there's probably some data to back this up. And breaking MMA down by the numbers like this, that's another reason why I like Tommy Toehold so much, man. Tommy Toehold really goes in on the data sets. And I find it fascinating. So yeah, Purple Belt Analytics getting high marks from your boy right now. This is all very fascinating.
But do we see any evidence of this in the UFC data? Here I've put submissions into two categories. Standard submissions like arm bars and triangles, and weird submissions, things like neck cranks and forearm chokes. One was even described as chin to eye. What we see is that in the 90s and early 2000s, weird submissions made up a higher proportion of finishes, and I think we can attribute this to a lack of awareness on the ground.
But hold on a second though, and maybe there's somebody who knows data better than me, but so okay, submissions categorized as weird, he said, weird submissions are here. But then standard submissions are at 100% across the board. So how does that make sense? Shouldn't the standard submissions drop to be proportional to the weird? Like, I think I'm kind of not understanding that aspect, because like if 1994 is at 20%, Oh, so okay, so I guess technically it is. I see. Okay, I'm dumb. Okay, so yeah, so basically what this is just this is 0 to 100%. So all submissions make up the 100%, and this counts as the 80% out of. Okay, I think it's just an odd way to present this information that I didn't really pick up on at first, but now I'm getting it. So sorry. I guess I had to talk that through so I could understand it as an absolute moron. We've got to check out some Activan tonight. He's analytical with way more personality. Okay. Again, get your links ready. If you're throwing links into the chat right now and I'm not seeing them on Restream, I will go over to YouTube and see if I can pull them off of there. But you might have to repost them. So if you've already posted links and I don't see them on Restream, hang on to them. I'll let you know when I'm over in the YouTube chat, and I will grab them off of there. You can post them all at once, and I'll pick through them if I can get them. I miss weird subs so much. When was the last time that we saw a casual knee bar and Ezekiel choke? Yeah, Ezekiel's choke we've seen more recently. But Ezekiel's are somewhat rare, it would seem. Yeah, it's true. And as far as a knee bar goes, I think the last time that we saw one actively pulled off, but it wasn't even pulled off. The last one that we saw sunk that should have been a full-on knee bar was Muhammad Mokaev, and the one that he survived. I was like, if Mokaev could survive that knee bar and he did it, there's no hope, bro. We're never seeing a knee bar again. Sad to say. Mike Phantom checking in over on Kick, the underrepresented platform of Kick. It is nice to see an actual human being every once in a while on Kick. Good to see you, Mike Phantom. Much love and good vibes, brother. Right back at you, my friend. Appreciate you, bro. Lopez had Movsar in the knee bar and he didn't tap. Okay, so there you go. There's another one. There's another one. God damn it. No one's tapping to knee bars anymore, bro. It's a brave new world. Nobody is tapping to knee bars, and heavyweights cannot finish rear naked chokes. We are cooked.
The lack of awareness on the ground. Take a look at some examples. It would be extremely rare to see a modern day UFC fighter submit to one of these. So what submissions are happening today? Well, I analysed the data and found 3 interesting trends. Submissions are happening today.
What are some of these? It's hard to even know what's going on here. This one, Dan Bobish versus Brian Johnston, looks like he's just putting his elbow on his throat. I guess maybe that counts as a submission. This is like it's like an inverted, I mean, not even fully inverted. It's just like a modified half Nelson. It looks like. I don't even, maybe there's a name for that. I think is that called a rib splitter? I think I've heard that referred to as a rib splitter before, but don't quote me. This looks like a scarf choke over here. Mark Coleman versus Gary Goodridge. And, I mean, Tito Ortiz versus Yuki Kondo. That just looks like, I guess, like a modified guillotine? Boston Crab style submissions. We saw a Boston Crab get pulled off not too long ago, didn't we? Who did we see? Was that Jimmy Crute? I think it was Jimmy Crute. I think Jimmy Crute pulled off a fucking Boston Crab. Did he not? I swear we talked about this. Hey, TJF, good to see you, brother. WTJF. Looking forward to your interview, sir. Let us know when it is out, guys. Just so you know, I don't want to spill the beans out of turn, but TJF is cooking over here. Last Ezekiel was Volkov on Ty. Yes. Yeah, Ezekiel Volkov is he's got multiple Ezekiel chokes, I believe. Oh, yes, you're right. It was the camel clutch. You're right. It was not the Boston Crab. Fuck. Where I swear to God I saw that. It might, you know what it might have been? I think it was a clip. I think I saw it in a clip and it was from a regional promotion, but I have seen a Boston Crab pulled off in MMA. I think it was in a clip. I'd have to find it on Instagram. I believe that's where I saw it. Wasn't there an Ezekiel choke on the Shanghai card last year? I think so. I remember there being, of course, Volkov, and then I know for a fact there was one other fighter who got one not too long ago, because I remember saying, oh, that's Volkov's favorite move, you know, that kind of thing. We talked about it on last week's fights, but a lot of fights, hard to remember. Yes, sir, I'm cooking. I'll let you know when it's done. Let's fucking go, brother. Go, TJF. Go forth, young son. Go forth, young boy, and you'll become a legend. There was a WMMA fight that happened a while back where a girl was going for a straight ankle lock, but it was at a weird angle, so it became kind of a knee bar. That sounds familiar. Yeah. Tyra was an improvised submission on Perez. I don't know if that counts. Maybe. Submission via doctor stoppage.
Well, I analysed the data and found 3 interesting trends. The first is the growth in front headlock and arm triangle submissions over time. This chart shows the number of front headlock and arm triangle submissions hit since 1994.
Wow.
Before 2007, these techniques were pretty rare. Today, both are significant players. The second is the lack of growth in leg locks. This chart shows the proportion of submissions categorized as leg locks in a given year. I was surprised to see no real growth in the last 5 years.
I wasn't. I'm not surprised by this at all. This is exactly what we're talking about in the chat right now. This is exactly that. Look at all these leg lock submissions back in the day. How many in 1999 do you think were knee bars? So many. At least potentially. I couldn't tell you. But I guarantee you that it's more than what you're getting in 2015, which is fuck all nothing. Bring back the leg lock. So this is the thing. I love a good leg-based submission. I think it's very impressive. You rarely see it anymore because people are so savvy to it. But I would love to be seeing more knee bars, more heel hooks, more fucking toe holds. Do whatever, bro. I love all of that shit, and I very rarely see it anymore, so I want more of it. Bring it back. We need higher level tacticians. Tacticians. Higher level tacticians when it comes to the legs, ankles, etc. Hey, Lachlan is here. Brother, how are you, sir? Good to see you, Lachlan. Shout out to the fantastic country of Australia. God damn it, I love that place. Why wouldn't that eventually become a submission move, though? Tyra's move on Perez? I mean, it could have. I think that because it depends. What I would say is that, like, it becomes not a submission move because the injury is what becomes the end of the fight. But if you end up going for a submission after you've injured your opponent and the ref doesn't see the injury and just stop the fight instantly, then there you go. There's your submission. Perez versus Tyra fight was brutal. Yeah, it was pretty hard to watch in the moment. Yeah, that was a bad tumble he took. Never post, bro. Never post. The champ of that division. Think about that. Alex Perez goes down, tries to post, ends up fucking himself up off posting. The champion of that division has a very similar injury in a title fight. And now Josh Vann is the champion. Strange times. John Paul by legendary forgotten submission, only way he lives up to his ego. Brother, I want to see it so badly. Jean Paul Lebosnayani. Well, you know what he could really do, Chase? This is actually, no, all memes aside, if he really wanted to live up to the ego, he needs to have a submission named after him, like the Von Flu. We need to call it the Lebosna hold. I always want to go for Lesbos. The Isle of Lesbos, of course, where lesbianism was invented. But yeah, no, all seriousness, yeah, if he wants to really be a legend like that, he needs to have a submission named after him. Oh, here we go. I got it. It's called the Leholdsnayani. No one would ever say it, but that's what he would say. You can call it the JP. But, you know, if you ask me, what I call it at home when I'm talking about me, myself, and what I do, I called it the Leholdsnoyani. The Rotolos have a sub named after. Yeah, they have the it's the what do they call that? It's the oh my god, I knew it too. Shit, they were just talking about it on one. I don't think it was the last card, but recently they were. The Rotolitine? Is that what they call it? I don't know. Either way, there you go. Yeah, the Rotolitine. There you go. I got it. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. If the Rotolo's got one, then fucking Jean-Paul Lebosnayani needs to have one. If he's really about it like that. My favorite submissions being named after the guy who invented them is fire. I love seeing a Charles Oliveira done in the cage. True. Just wanted to come say hi and spread some positivity. Mike Phantom, thank you so much for doing that, brother. An oasis in the desert over there on Kick, but thank you so much for being that. Appreciate you, bro. Love seeing you in the chat, my guy. Thank you so much. And positivity and love back to you, my friend.
We've seen leg locks become perhaps the most dominant submission in high-level no-gi grappling in the last 5 years, but this hasn't translated to MMA.
Or UFC BJJ.
The most obvious reason for this is the difference in consequences. To attempt a leg lock often means sacrificing a dominant position and or leaving yourself open to strikes. Here's esteemed leg locker Gary Tonin attacking legs in an MMA fight, and here's him being knocked out seconds later. Of course, leg locks still have their place in MMA, not just for submissions but for creating scrambles and reversing position. However, the final takeaway from this analysis is what you might consider the Pareto principle. In the last 10 years, just 4 techniques accounted for over 80% of all submissions. So if you're an MMA fighter, or you want your jiu-jitsu to be applicable to an actual cage fight, get good at these 4 submissions. Thanks for watching.
I mean, there you have it, right? 4 submissions, the entirety of the chart, basically. Rear naked choke, guillotine, arm bar, arm triangle. All the greatest hits, all the classics right there. Look how 2% of leg locks. Bro. And that's it. 3% key locks. That's fucking wild, my guy. That counts. That's key lock counts for the actual key lock or Kimura and the Americana. So straight triangle, leg-based triangle, basically nothing. 4%. Front headlock, that's, I guess anacondas and scarf choke, things like that, maybe. Or short chokes, face cranks, I would say. No, not face cranks. That'd be in rear naked territory. I guess that's what the thing I would say is that like, I'd like to see this broken down a little bit more deep into that. Americanas should be used way more. I think that they're a little risky though, because isn't that Americana, the difference is with the Americana is that you try to drag the arm outward, right? So like dragging the arm outward leaves more room for the arm to have range of motion to get out of that maneuver, I think. The Choi bar is also a fairly new submission named after someone. What is the Choi bar? I like the name, though. Sounds delicious. What's our drinking game for the Thinker stream? Drink anytime Josh Van comes up, pull my arm, but I'll be fine. I mean, y'all decide and let me know, and I'll drink too. Not many people at this level will tap to a limb submission at this point, I guess. And of course, wise to the game's true. Yeah, I mean, that's all that it really comes down to, in my opinion, is just that it's the knowing ball, It's just all these guys are high level grapplers at this point. Makes sense that they know how to get out of shit. Makes sense that they know how to stay away from shit. But this is an interesting graph to me in that way, Also, I would love to know what the other is. Where does the other, like, what is that, like toe holds? I guess that might be. Small joint manipulation? Hey, Jeremy Hall, the RWS legend, Jeremy Hall. How you doing, brother? Good to see you, man. Threatening the omoplata like Charles did against Gamrot was one of the slickest traps ever. He was confusing Gamer and led him into a trap. True. I would like to see an actual omoplata pulled off. Sad to say that an omoplata probably falls into the other category at this point, because the omoplata is technically a shoulder submission. So, if it ain't an arm bar, arm triangle, guillotine, or RNC, You see how the makeup goes. Yeah, this is very fast. Jeez, excuse me. Sorry. That might be happening over the course of this stream. Like I said, I have the post-nasal drip that's fucking with my speaking here today. Very hard when I was on the phone today with clients.
Cage fight. Get good at these 4 submissions. Thanks for watching. I've got loads more UFC data analytics content to come. So if you liked it and
He said it correctly. He does have it to come, and we've got it to watch. He's got 3 more videos. So next one up is going to be 5 ways size influences submissions in the UFC. So far, I am loving this. I cannot tell you how this like scratches the analytic nerd in me. I love data. I don't know how to collect it, and I also don't know how to interpret it correctly, but that's what the experts are here for. So thankfully, we have purple belt analytics for all of that. So we're going to get into this one in just a moment. North-south. Yeah, that's a good one. There you go. That's a good point. Yeah, north-south's probably in there. Ninja choke. Yeah, ninja choke, I think, falls into the front headlock category, I believe. But, yeah, it's hard to say how he set all that stuff up. But yeah, all right. Well, then without further ado, we will get into this one. Again, guys, appreciate you all for being here. Make sure you hit that little like button on the stream if you're enjoying hanging out tonight.
does size matter? It's an age-old question.
I mean, your girl thinks so.
When it comes to fighting, of course the answer is yes, but to what degree? Specifically, I want to know what role size plays in submissions. To find out, I analysed 32 years of UFC data and found 5 interesting trends.
That's what I see. My thing is, when he says he analyzed 32 years of UFC data, how did he find that? I would like to look at the raw data. Where do I find the raw data set? Somebody get on Twitter, get on Instagram. We need to be tweeting at Purple Belt Analytics. Where do you get this data from? Because I could sit there and nerd out about data all day long. I could be combing through information. I want the advanced stats. I want IBM Watson. God damn it. The UFC told us they're using IBM Watson. It's in all these advertisements. IBM Watson is doing all this advanced data collecting analytics. It's sending information on the fly to the commentators. Where is our part of that pie? When do we get to see IBM Watson giving us this information? God damn it, I want it. Bothers me. Really bothers me because IBM Watson sat there and beat my boy Ken Jennings on Jeopardy back in the day. Ken Jennings, the Jeopardy GOAT, who is now the host of Jeopardy. IBM Watson beats my boy Ken Jennings, gets a job at the UFC, and we don't get to see the data? This will not stand, people. I don't like this. I do not like it. Let's see. No, okay. Bunch of submissions coming in. My bad, guys. North-south choke don't work. I mean, they have worked. Buggy choke's gonna be another. Yes, buggy choke. Yes, very good call on the buggy choke being in the other category for sure. Didn't Marab get a north-south on Sugar? No. I think Marab's was a modified Ezekiel / ninja choke. I was gonna say it was a modified ninja choke personally. So yeah, that tracks. It was a combo between north-south and Ezekiel chokes. Interesting. I mean, I thought it had the ninja elements, right? Didn't it have the arm under the chin? Thank you guys. It was a pretty good sub. It was definitely an unexpected sub. I will say that. You're all over any Ezekiel choke? Dope, dude. Darce wasn't on the pie chart. Darce counts as a front headlock, I believe, right? Because isn't the Darce pull over front headlock backwards? I think that's basically it, right? And, you know, obviously I'm dumbing it down, but you know what I'm saying. Good point. Maybe that's in the other, or does it get included in the head and arm? I mean, I think that's, yeah, guys, I didn't think about it that way. Cause it's kind of like halfway between head and arm and headlock, no? Cause it's corralling the head and the arm and putting the compression in the same way that a head and arm would, but from a different position, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm not, maybe I'm not enough of a submission expert to know the finer details of these things. But this is why we need to talk to Purple Belt MMA, Purple Belt Analytics over here. Obviously, he's got the facts, and I can yell with him, not at him, of course. I would yell with him. Perhaps me and him could both be yelling about how much we want IBM Watson's information, and we are being denied this. It's probably in the front headlock. That would be my thought process anyway. Nobody cares about IBM Watson except for me? Guys, come on, get hip here.
Number 1. Bigger guys finish on top.
Hey.
This chart shows the proportion of submission in each weight class that were finished from the top position. What we see is quite a strong trend whereby, generally speaking, heavier guys secure more submissions from top position than lighter guys.
Another interesting chart here. So what this is showing is just top position, and then everything else is the grayed out portion here. So heavyweights finish on top 35% of the time, light heavyweights at 30%. No real comment, just an interesting way to present the information, I would say.
It's not a perfect gradient. We look at welterweight and middleweight, for example, but look at the extremes. Only 14% of submissions in the flyweight division came from the top position.
That is interesting, actually. Holy shit. Flyweight, where submission, maybe that has to be another Purple Belt Analytics video right now. I would love to see a whole data breakdown on the flyweight division. How many submissions are in flyweight in general? I'm trying to think. I mean, I want to say guys like Cody Durden have submissions on the record. There's probably a couple. But on the whole, flyweight, not known for like the largest submission game. I mean, Pantoja has some good submissions, right? I mean, if you think about some of the other flyweights, Van, no submissions. Moreno, maybe a couple, but it's not his bread and butter. Tyra, probably, we get a couple there too, maybe. But overall, I mean, flyweight, not exactly a submission-heavy division necessarily. And then 14% from the top position, that's very telling. Pantoja has them all, yeah. But I mean, on the whole, I mean, he's like kind of the outlier, I would say, right? True, yeah. Paul Craig responsible for that middleweight dip. Pantoja has them all, right? Exactly. Tyra, Pantoja, Tim Elliott. There you go. There's a good one. Yeah. Oh, and Horiguchi. Yeah. Well, Horiguchi, he just came back though. So he doesn't really count. Mighty Mouse has more of a claim to that in the UFC than he does, really. But Elliott's a good call. Yeah. Tim Elliott, goated, friend of the channel.
Compared to 36% in the heavyweight division. The question then becomes why? Well, the answer brings us to our second finding. Number 2, big guy moves exist. This chart shows the specific submissions hit from top position in the flyweight and heavyweight divisions. What we see is the existence of big guy moves. Those of you who have ever been on the mats probably know of a big guy who likes to muscle Americanas on the smaller guys. But what's interesting about this is that even if you equalize the weight, there appears to be a size requirement for hitting some of these submissions.
Wow, that is fascinating. Also, just wanted to pause real quick to say that big guy moves are the only moves that I make. I think that was very important that I mentioned that. But really, no, look at the breakdown of this. This actually is very, very interesting here. North-South choke, North-South Ezekiel, knee bar, I mean, all of these. I would like to see the rest of the divisions represented. Because I think that would, I'd say, be the problem with this graph, is that it's like, okay, you're only comparing the smallest and the largest. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be a gradient in there when it comes to the divisions that are between all of these. But interesting, like, based on this comparison, flyweights only armbar, arm triangle, Kimura, and guillotine. Everything else going to the heavyweights. He choked out to gear. Oh, gosh, you're right. I forgot about that. You are right. You are correct about Horiguchi. But I mean, really, I wouldn't necessarily say that he sways the analytics necessarily, but at the same time, if it's only 14%, then he probably does. So shame on me.
Americanas, forearm chokes, Ezekiel's, scarfold chokes, they're almost exclusively done by heavyweights. This indicates that a certain level of body mass and or general strength is required to pull off these techniques, even if your opponent is of similar size and strength. However, there is one position where we actually see the opposite trend. This brings us to our third finding: smaller guys attack the back. This chart shows the proportion of submissions in each weight class that were finished from the back position. What we see is quite a strong trend whereby, generally speaking, lighter guys secure more submissions from the back than heavier guys. I was surprised that only 26% of submissions in the heavyweight division came from the back position. Compare this to flyweights, where it's actually 58%. The vast majority of these, of course, being rear naked chokes.
I mean, fair, but like if you look at the full on breakdown, I mean the discrepancy from the highest and the lowest is large, right? You're saying 25-ish% versus 58% or something like that. But if you look at all of the other weights between them, not that big of a deviation necessarily. Light heavyweight at 40 or 39%, light heavyweight at 39%, bantamweight at 46%, 47%, and then everything else in there somewhere around there, you know? So interesting with that. I don't know, just an observation again. It's all very fascinating. When was the last time we saw a scarf hold choke in the UFC? I think that depends on how they're categorizing that. If they're actually talking about legitimate scarf hold where it's just taking the arm across the neck and pushing, I think we saw that actually. We saw a women's fight with that not too long ago, I want to say, where they actually got the scarf hold finish. But yeah, it's true. It's kind of a it's another one that's sort of lost to time, it seems. I know another unique submission you should look up. I think it happened once in the UFC. It's called the pillory choke. A guy named Nick Pace used it on someone. I think they called it the Pace choke after him. Okay, interesting. Show me an example of it, or throw it in the Discord. Charles being the jump in lightweight. Facts. Kind of a shit finding, no fun heavyweight. Heavyweights don't take backs. I mean, but when they do, they can't do shit with it. Shout out to Thomas Peterson. You know what I'm talking about. I've actually been trying to incorporate it into my own BJJ game. I'll go for it whenever I have someone in a triangle, but they're doing a good job of defending. I want to see someone pull off the dead orchard. The dead orchard. I used to call it the dead orchard. I thought that's what he had said at first, but no. I want to see someone pull off the dead archer choke. Do you all know what I'm talking about with the dead archer choke? If you don't know what I'm talking about, then surely you have not been listening to Joe Rogan. Because every time that there is a potential for a head and arm triangle, or for an actual triangle, leg-based triangle, every time that someone throws a triangle up, Joe Rogan will reference the dead archer choke. A dead archer should actually be a big guy move. I mean, probably not though, because if you think about it, like so if you're not familiar with what we're talking about here, basically a dead archer, from what I understand it to be, is basically a triangle with both arms through, right? That's basically what it is. If you think about it, like, it should be a big guy move in the sense that their leg compression should be enough to create the force. But the problem is that the body mass of the other person will negate the ability of the legs. Isn't a dead orchard a double arm bar? Like double arm bar? You mean like a full on, like a full crucifix, like a hyperextended crucifix? I thought a dead archer was when they have both arms through in a triangle. That's what I thought it was. Maybe I'm misinterpreting what Joe Rogan is talking about. To exert the necessary force to compress both arteries through the shoulders is a lot. Yes, okay, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It is basically what I was saying. Yeah, so that's what I mean. Like, so you're saying it should be a big guy move. In theory, yes, because they would be the ones to have the leg power to do that. But then you also have to take into account the upper body of the person they're trying to do it to. So I just don't I don't buy the dead archer as a thing in active competition in MMA. You know. Never mind. I think dead archer is both arms and the Yes, that's what I'm talking about here. You have the option of arm barring both of their arms at the same time. I mean, if you could pull off an arm bar with that locked in, that's pretty crazy. Because I mean, how are you going to actually? Well, yeah, I guess technically you could, thinking about it really. Because yeah, if they have both arms out in front of you and you pull back on both arms, I mean, I don't know how you corral both arms in that way, but like you basically, I guess, have to pull, put the pressure on both arms and like arch your back backwards, with both arms corralled in some way so that you can get the hyperextension on the arms. Crazy move. I'd love to see it. Like, I would really love to see it. All I know is that Joe Rogan talks about it, and not one time in 20 years of watching the sport, or however long it's been for me, have I ever seen it even remotely attempted.
From the back than heavier guys. I was surprised that only 26% of submissions in the heavyweight division came from the back position. Compare this to flyweights, where it's actually 58%. The vast majority of these, of course, being rear naked chokes. This left me wondering why. My leading theory is that the larger frame of heavyweight fighters makes back control a bit more difficult, even if you equalise the weight of opponents. I think it's fair to say that heavyweights probably have the highest average body fat percentage, and flyweights probably the lowest. The leaner athletes in the flyweight division probably find inserting hooks and using body triangles, getting under the chin, a bit easier.
I second this analysis. I think that this is pretty accurate at least off the eye test. And we're talking in generalities here. We're talking in raw data numbers. I would say that this all tracks. I guess grab double overhooks through the triceps and thrust your hips up for torque. You'd have to be putting a shit ton of torque on that, on your hips, man. God damn. Again, I'd love to see someone try it. I'd love to see someone actually pull it off. A girl did it to you one time. I didn't get injured, but you felt the pressure right away. Okay, hey, again, show it to me in active competition. I'd be happy. Again, in MMA specifically. I mean, I'm sure that in actual BJJ competition, it's probably pulled off at some point. I mean, you can find examples of it on YouTube. It's not like a myth. So, I mean, like, it does exist, but I just don't. I'd really like to actually see it in active competition sometime. I think this skips over the first option of big guys top pressure opening extra submissions based off of straight discomfort and general restriction of breathing. Yeah. I mean, I guess that there's probably some truth to that. But, I mean, if we're talking about back control specifically, then... Oh, but we were talking about top... Yeah, we were talking about top down. Well, then there you go. See, CTE, you should make a counter video to this. Be like, hey, I like you, but I think that you got some facts wrong. I don't know if I agree with your police work there, Lou.
Bigger guys in the heavyweight division also have a lesser incentive to actually search for the back if they get top position, since they have a higher likelihood of securing submission from top position, and also a higher chance of stoppage via ground and pound, but we'll address this in another video. Let me know in the comments if you've got any other theories. Interesting trend number 4.
Let them know in the comments there, CTE.
Is something we'll call the long boy dividend. This chart shows the correlation between fighter height differential and triangle subrate, i.e. the association between the difference in two fighters' heights and the likelihood of a triangle occurring. This chart shows the same principle, but instead the association between reach differential and the likelihood of a front headlock choke occurring. Unsurprisingly, the correlation in both charts is positive, meaning taller fighters are more likely to secure triangles, and fighters with a longer reach are more likely to secure Darces or Anacondas. This brings us to our fifth and final interesting trend, and that is that submission rate is stable across weight class. Although we've seen vast differences in submission rate from certain position across weight classes, submission rate overall is actually pretty stable. I think the conclusion here is that fighters will find a submission that works for their body type. So whether you're a muscled up beefcake, a long boy, or a short king, you can make jiu-jitsu work for you. Thanks for watching.
Interesting. All right. I mean, I like it. You know, not being of that deep and analytical mind, I guess, as far as like the data goes, and not being able to like interpret it the same way that an actual data analyst would. It all sounds like it tracks, but you know, really just kind of food for thought at the end of the day. It's very interesting stuff. Sent you the pace choke on Discord. Okay, got you, bro. Yeah, I don't know if I can bring it up on here, but I will check that out. I'll check it out for sure, and I'll post it for the rest of the guys if you sent it to me in a DM. All right, so that's 2 down from Purple Belt. Again, I find all this stuff very fascinating. I don't know. I guess that's all. One thing that I would say, if I wanted to be somewhat of a cynic, you know, if I was pulling out my cynical card here and putting it on the table, I would say that, like, what does this information really matter all that much in the big picture? Maybe it doesn't. You know, every fighter is different. Every circumstance in MMA is somewhat different, even if they are all similar. Just interesting things to consider, I guess, more than anything. Best point he made is fighters have their favorite subs for what they are capable of pulling off going forward. I like that knowledge. I think that is absolutely, I mean, that should be kind of one of those things that really, like, data aside, just kind of tracks in general, right? I mean, there's a reason that they're naming certain submissions after people. They find it, they're good at it. Maybe they are the first one to do it and they get it off of that, but they have to replicate it multiple times for that to stick. So obviously you lean on your strengths. You should lean on your strengths in MMA. We talk about this on the podcast all the time, where it's, well, why is this guy who's a wrestler going to strike? Why is this striker going for wrestling? Like, where is this coming from? Play to your strengths. You know, Bilal Muhammad is a great example of this against Jack Della. Play to your strengths. And don't give me that bullshit that Bilal attempted X amount of takedowns and just didn't get them because you didn't watch the fight if you think that, god damn it. If he was threatening level changes, he was not going for the level change. You know the difference. You're being contrarian. I feel like most fighters' favorite submissions are just the ones they hit at the highest clip in the gym. It should be. It should be. You don't, like, it's really one of those, I think, it's one of those romantic notions that people have that when you're the best in the world, you can do every single thing the best in the world. You know what I mean? This is like one of those myths of the Uberman, so to speak. It's like, oh, this guy is just so good. He can do anything. You know what I mean? You don't need to do that to be the best. I hate to burst the bubble here. This is not the movies. This is real life. If you are really good at one thing and you do that extremely well and can replicate it consistently, that is what makes you the best. Islam Makhachev does not need the Ezekiel choke. Feel me? Like, it would be cool to see it. Yeah, you'd be like, wow, that's really cool that he did that. But he is the best regardless of being able to do it. He plays to his strengths. He also has power, which helps as well. So really, it's, to me, what I would say is that instead of trying to be great at all things, be good at all things and great at a few things. It's the Bruce Lee saying, right? I'm not afraid of the man who knows 1,000 kicks. I'm afraid of the man who knows one kick and has practiced it 1,000 times. There you go. Bilal shot his average number of takedowns. Sorry, not true. This is what I'm trying to tell you, CTE. He did not. He did not. He did not fully shoot any of them. I don't care what it said on paper. Everybody needs the Ezekiel choke in their life. Brother, I would like to see it more often. I'm just saying that you don't need it to be the greatest. But should they be trying it? If they can do it, they should. I'd say that I'll meet you in the middle and say that more people need to try to make it their best choke. How about that? More people need to drill the Ezekiel so that we see it more often. All right, video number 3 here from Purple Belt Analytics is called 4 Weird Patterns I Found When Analyzing UFC Data. 4 weird patterns that I found while analyzing UFC data. Of course, Purple Belt Analytics doing the analysis.
Let's say you agree to fight someone at 170 pounds, but your opponent actually ends up weighing 175 pounds. You'd say that was an unfair advantage, right? What if I told you that a fighter who misses weight is actually more likely to lose, despite the advantage of not making weight?
Bro, I have been saying this forever now. This is the new meta. The new meta is being confirmed by the data. Your boy is being proven correct in real time. Love to see it. Love to see it. Because I've been saying that forever. I've been, I talk about it on the podcast all the time. A lot of these things we talk about on the podcast, of course. But I was saying, when it comes to weight misses nowadays, it's people having bad cuts, injuries, laziness, whatever the reason is, they don't bring an advantage even though they have the extra weight all the time. It could be an advantage. Some people can make it an advantage, but overall, I think it really more signals that the fighter is underprepared. So for whatever reason, they're underprepared. So this is tracking to me, and I'm glad that my point is now being scientifically backed up. More people need to hit mounted triangles simply because they're cool? Fuck yeah, dude. Hell yeah. What I would like to see is more people going for the goddamn mounted triangle lion tamer. You ever seen that pulled off? Extremely rare. Got the mounted triangle from front position, bend back, grab legs, pull up. Insane. Insane to think that that's a real thing. Even more insane because I probably just made it up.
The data tells us that fighters who missed weight in the UFC actually go on to lose 57% of the time. This is one of 4 weird patterns I found when analysing years of UFC data, all of which I'll break down in this video.
So wait a second, hold on. Maybe he'll break down the rest of it. So weight misses lose... Weight missed losses. Oh, okay. So yeah, if you miss weight, you lose 57% of the time. All right. Good to know. Let that be something to bring into your betting knowledge here. Of course, when me and Chase do our predictions on the show, we don't know who's going to miss weight. But now, if you already had an opinion based on our expert analysis, expert being used very loosely there, if you have an opinion based on our analysis, now you can also take that piece of data into your betting repertoire. God bless your... Jesus Christ, man. God bless your parlays, is what I was going to say. Meat Rocket, Thinker St. John. That's my brother. It's my cousin, actually. Thinker St. John. I only see him at Thanksgiving.
57% of the time. This is one of 4 weird patterns I found when analysing years of UFC data, all of which I'll break down in this video. Before I get on to the remaining 3, let's try and explain our first finding. Wouldn't missing weight be an advantage? Well, yes, but what we have here is something called selection bias. Missing weight is likely a reflection of one of 3 things: unprofessionalism, illness or injury, or poor weight cutting strategy.
Fucking Galaxy Brain St. James is before you being backed up by goated Purple Belt Analytics right now. The knowledge that is in here is being presented to you by an actual person who knows the facts. I mean, I don't know, dude. I think that a pat on the back is in order for your boy. Just saying. Ponderer St. Paul. Hey, Didgeridoo Dave. What's up, brother? Damn, we miss you around here, Didgeridoo Dave. God damn. You get yourself a baddie and you don't know a motherfucker anymore, dude. We miss you on the watch-alongs, bro. Sucks, man. I mean, obviously you're getting right by your lady and you're doing good by your Lord and Savior, so I can appreciate all of that, but we miss you, bro. Good to see you, man. Thinker the clairvoyant. I mean, these are the biggest of facts, bro. I see it through the third eye in the center of my forehead.
All of which are likely to correlate negatively with a fighter's performance. Fighters who miss weight are more likely to exhibit these negative traits, which means their estimated win rate is below the UFC average to begin with. So even if they get a marginal boost in the odds of success by not cutting as much weight, it's likely offset by one of these traits.
That's actually very interesting. I didn't even think about it in those terms. That if fighters are missing weight, period, there's a general correlation to professionalism inherently. That I did not consider. That's an interesting element of all of that. Yeah, interesting. You know, because it's saying, oh, you know, if you have those, because basically what he's saying is it's compounded. It's saying that like you have a poor weight cut or, you know, an illness or lack of professionalism, but that's being compounded with a generalized lack of professionalism just for being in that position in the first place. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with that 100%. I don't think that applies to every fighter, but I think that's an interesting kind of connection that I didn't make in my mind. It definitely applies to certain fighters. We know that. What up, my main dog, Streamlabs? Hell yeah, always shout out to the goated Streamlabs. You missed the fights last week, and I miss... Oh, Didgery Dave. Brother, it's in service of a greater purpose, obviously. It's in service of your happiness, and that's obviously, at the end of the day, what we want the most. So as long as you are happy, my friend, you will always have a place at Yama Central, my friend. You will always be a member of the Blood Palm, whether you like it or not, wherever you go. We are inextricably linked by the Blood Palm, my friend. Exactly. Absolutely. You're here now, and that's all that matters. Any time that you are here is the best time, brother.
Here's another one for you. If I told you 112 heavyweight fights in the UFC have ended in submission, how many of these fights do you think were won by the heavier man? As you know, heavyweight has the largest range in weight. Theoretically, a fighter could have a 60-pound advantage on their opponent, and the fight would still be sanctioned. I always assumed that a weight advantage went a long way in fighting, especially grappling heavy fights. So I'd guess that of the 112 UFC heavyweight fights that ended in submission, at least say 60% of them would have been won by the heavier fighter, right?
Okay, I would think that this is going to be proven to be false. I'm trying to think how I would have answered that question. Does the heavier fighter get the submissions? Honestly, I don't know if I would have answered that way. Maybe I would have said, I mean, even without this framework, hard to know now, obviously, we're kind of getting the hand tipped to us here, but if you had asked me that without any context, I might have said the lighter fighter. Because this kind of goes back to the conversation we were just having about Sergey Spivak last night. Sergey Spivak, a lighter, smaller feeling fighter anyway. I mean, yeah, they'll list him as the same height as all the other heavyweights, and I'm like, no, that don't track to me. He's small. But anyway, yeah, Sergey Spivak. So it's like knowing that he can get a submission. I might have gone for the lighter guys in this question, honestly. Jalton, Frank Mir, Alexei Oleinik, all smaller guys. True. I mean, I think you're speaking pretty factual statements right now, though. I like the thought process. Knowing what we know from the last video, it should be a higher clip in theory. That's a good point too. Yeah, really. This is where analytics start to get a little bit messy, CTE, where it's like if you start pairing certain analytic sets with each other, like you start stacking analytics, then it's like, okay, well, where's the correlation here, though? Because you said over here that this was this, and then this is something different, Again, this is another reason why data is very fascinating. And, excuse me, again, sorry, I apologize tonight, guys. But one thing to also keep in mind is that numbers lie. in a general sense as well. Just because you can find a way to have analytics confirm or deny something does not necessarily make it a factual statement, or correlation does not equal causality. It's the theory that if you asked how many people were wearing the color blue when they committed a murder, and that number was over 50% for whatever reason, then you could infer, if you were using analytics, you could say, oh, well, then people who wear blue are more likely to commit murders. There is no actual correlation between those two. It's just a spurious analytical data point that you can draw a conclusion from that may or may not be true. In that case, not true. So, that's, again, I find data very fascinating for these reasons. Like, it's just an interesting thing to utilize in different ways. Sometimes it can be extremely accurate. Predictive markets are some of the most accurate measures of the future that we have, because it's basically mass data collection being correlated in real time a lot of the times. But then they can also be extremely wrong. In predictive markets when it comes to sports is exactly the opposite. If you go back, Paddy Pimblett was super high on the predictive markets to win against Justin Gaethje. Saw what happened there. So data is a fascinating beast. Appreciate the always, Didgeridoo Dave. Come on, man. You're the man. Exactly. Keep up the great work always, dude. And shout out to you and your lovely bride-to-be. Just know that if we're not all invited to the wedding, Yama is with you in spirit. Really, what I think that you need to do is find a place to put up the Yama logo at the wedding somewhere, just so that the chat is with you always. And so that you see the Yamrana in the background of your wedding pictures, because that would be amazingly dope. I'm kidding. Don't do that. Your wife will be very mad. Ban predictive markets. Hey, well, that's getting into a spicy territory. And of course, you know that we've done plenty of coverage about sports betting on this channel. In fact, I know I recommend a lot of my previous stuff, and don't think that I am doing that for the views. The views are appreciated. Of course, they help with the analytics and everything, whatever. But when I'm telling you to look at something from the past, there's a reason for it. And this one, I think, is highly underviewed, and it really needs more views on it, because I think it was a very fascinating stream. It was the one that we did on that random Sunday morning. And it was right after the Hernandez Johnson fight got canceled, and there was potential fight fixing going on in that fight. I think it was called Another Sports Betting Scandal, or another MMA scandal. Is this the new normal? And we went into some fascinating points in that video about sports betting and all that. So if you got some time after the stream, go check that out.
Wrong again. Weirdly, only 43% of the winning fighters had a weight advantage. One explanation for this involves the law of diminishing returns.
What does inconclusive mean? What does inconclusive mean in this context? Inconclusive how? You didn't know their weights? Only one person can be the smaller fighter or the bigger fighter. There are only two people involved. This is a binary situation here. I don't know what inconclusive means. There's 2% of margin for error somehow. Do it for the views, get your money. Appreciate you, CTE, but bro, I do it for the yams, bro. Come on, man. Money is just a wonderful byproduct. 43% is a lot to say only. Yeah, true. It's a good point, right? Did you ever see the Norm Macdonald bit? His neighbor was a logic analyst or something and gave Norm an example by asking him if he had a dog house and logically took steps to establish he had a family. No, but I am a big fan of Norm Macdonald, so if you post that somewhere, I will absolutely watch it. Too close a margin of weight? That doesn't fly to me. Too close of a margin of weight? What do you mean? What do you mean? I mean, did he establish that? Are we talking about like if it's within a pound or something like that? Whatever. But either way, one person is still the heavier fighter. So that 2% needs to be divvied by whoever is the heavier fighter in the framework that he has established here. I don't know. I don't buy it.
The advantage. Weirdly, only 43% of the winning fighters had a weight advantage. One explanation for this involves the law of diminishing returns. What's often discussed is the existence of an optimal weight, above which a fighter's loss in attributes like speed and agility outweighs their marginal gain in strength and size. As such, a 265-pound fighter could be above this theoretical optimal, and thus be at a disadvantage when fighting a 250-pound fighter who's closer to optimal.
Yeah, well, when that fighter is our boy over here, fucking, oh my God, Beast Boy, when you're 265 pounds and you're 5'6". Oh, shout out to Barnett the Beast. But I do understand what he's saying. You know, I mean, I think what he's saying in a general sense makes sense. It's like, you know, there is a certain point where having a weight advantage starts to go the opposite direction. I do agree that that's the case. Because if not, then morbidly obese people would have a fighting advantage, and they don't. You're assuming? You know what they say about assuming. I'm kidding. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting, like, why it was inconclusive, you know? I always questioned if weight classes totally mattered. Why does one have a gap of 60 pounds? Well, yeah. I mean, I think that's what he basically just said is kind of the reason it makes sense, you know? But, I mean, I think that you've seen enough fights at this point to know that weight classes exist for a reason, you know? But it's also a reason why I've never really jived with the idea of weight bullies being a thing. If you can make the weight, you made the weight. So, oh fucking well, you know? I mean, I'll go with you as like a train of thought about something. Manon Furo is a weight bully. Okay, I mean, I can go with that as a concept. But if she can make the weight, she made the weight. That's what you have to do. Don't matter. Now, if she is a weight bully and she is missing weight, that's a different story. Link is in the general. Got you, Didgeridoo Dave. I will check that out. Thank you, sir.
Thereby explaining why lighter guys prevail more often. I do think this hypothesis is truer for fights that take place on the feet, however. Another explanation could be the influence of outliers. Some grappling specialists have a slightly smaller frame than other heavyweights, and can skew the data in favour of the smaller fighter winning. Frank Mir, Alexei Olenek, Sergey Spivak, and Jelton Almeida, for example,
bro.
Often.
Who said that earlier? Was it Chase who said that? It was Chase, bro. Yo, Chase, 3 out of 4 ain't bad, bro. God damn. Chase fucking nailing it right now. Sure you didn't watch this video ahead of time? Good Lord. Good call, bro. Literally beside Sergey, who between me and Chase, we got all 4 of these represented. That's crazy.
And submit larger opponents. Collectively, they account for 19% of all submissions in UFC history, thus have the ability to skew our data in favor of the lighter guys and impact our finding.
I mean, but I don't think that that's an outlier necessarily. If they're the smaller guy and they're 19% of the pie, I think that speaks pretty large volumes, right? I mean, I think that that's a greater indictment of heavyweight, but you don't need them to indict heavyweight when it comes to, you know, all of the things that we talk about with heavyweight. But I mean, I think that that's basically what we're seeing here. If 4 people account for almost 20%, a fifth of all submissions at heavyweight are 4 people. It's pretty wild. That is pretty wild work. That would mean that each of them account for, well, okay, I mean, you break it down like this. So yeah, 7, Frank Mir is 7%, Alexei Olenek 6%, Sergey and Gilton 3% respectively. That's wild. Hey, Michael is here. The silent assassin speaks. How are you, sir? kind of random, but I wanted to say it was cool to hear you give old felony Charles some credit. Bro, I love Bennett, bro. Crazy Horse is the dude, also a Florida legend, by the way. Dude should have more money than he does. Well, yeah, I would suspect that Crazy Horse probably not the wisest when it comes to money. That's just an assumption. Again, I just said to CTE, you know what they say about assuming. Of course, maybe I am making an ass out of myself when I say that. But yeah, no, I do agree in a general sense. Plus, whoever said it, I forget who said it, but whoever had said Felony Bennett versus Winged Sea, I really, really wish that we could get that going, guys. On social media, if you have any social media accounts, post that shit and tag Yama. I will be boosting that signal. I want Charles, Felony, Crazy Horse Bennett, Crazy Felon Bennett versus Winged Schuler C, whatever the fuck. I want to see it. I'm curious what % of top 5 heavyweight fighters have been 250 or lower. There you go. That's another good one. See, this is what getting deeper into the analytics does. It raises more questions. If I had IBM Watson, I would know. I could tell you that answer. They are gatekeeping our Watson. I'm telling you guys, this is more of a thing than you guys are making it out to be, as no one responds to my emphatic desire to have the data of IBM Watson.
Let me know if you've got any other theories, put them in the comments. Let's look at another thing I found surprising. If we equalize fight duration, do you think when a heavyweight wins a fight, they'd have more or less control time over their opponent than when a flyweight wins a fight?
Okay, so if we equalize the fight time, who has more control time over their opponent, flyweight or heavyweight? Okay, let's think about this. Heavyweight, you'd think because the weight would be greater, that they would hold their opponent down more. But if we're equalizing fight time, heavyweight, I guess, would hold the opponent up against the cage more. I'm going to go with flyweight on this, because I think that flyweights get into more grappling situations, are on the ground per capita more often, and also have clinch time factored in as well. These days, heavyweight, well, I mean, So heavyweight is what all you guys are going with? Okay. I'm going to go with flyweight. I think maybe flyweight is the answer that he's looking to say is like the actual answer. Back control versus top and cage control. True. Yeah, I don't know. To be real, I don't even know what it is. I don't know. All right, well, I guess we'll find out here. You've put your predictions in the chat. Let's see what he says.
Yes, would be my answer. I think a flyweight scrambling a lot better than heavyweights, and thus average control time would be a lot higher in the heavyweight division. But I'd be wrong. 18 seconds for every minute fought in the flyweight division was controlled by the winner, compared to 17 seconds at heavyweight.
Goated St. James. People, I don't know how or any other way that I can tell you that I deserve the praise around here. Come on, this is legitimately amazing stuff just off the top of my head knowing this shit. Swear, I did not see this video ahead of time. But yeah, there you go. Like I said, I think that really, if we're talking about equaling out the fight time, a lot of heavyweight fights will end earlier to skew that number. So heavyweight really comes down primarily to cage control and a little bit of ground game, but not nearly as much. Flyweight, I think, ends up having more, like you said, back control, grappling and exchanges, scrambles, submission attempts are greater at flyweight. And then you also get cage control and stuff like that as well. A cage clinching I'm talking about, of course. So I think it tracks if you really dig deep into it.
That surprised me. So I dug a bit deeper, and it turns out I was actually right in my original hypothesis. Flyweights are better scramblers. Here, we can see flyweights are much more likely to hit reversals than heavyweights.
There you go.
And here we can see flyweights get back to their feet an average of 21 seconds quicker than heavyweights.
Yeah, but so okay, if that's the case then how does that count for actual control time? Because if they're getting back to their feet, theoretically they're getting out of the control though, right? I would think that what he just said about control and the lack thereof, getting back to your feet, scrambling, etc., like that would be the thing that would make it lower. Maybe I'm misinterpreting that part of it. I feel like there are so many rounds in heavyweight where someone gets on top half and they just stay there. True, but per capita, that's probably less than the amount of times that a heavyweight will just go in and knock somebody out, or that they both gas out on the feet and then don't go to the ground. You know what I mean? Think about it like that. There's only a few select heavyweights up until this more recent era where we're seeing more agile heavyweights who would even go to the ground even if they're gassed out. Like a lot of times they'll just sit. I mean, like a Dontel Mays is like the kind of guy who would let himself get controlled on the ground, but it's a rare circumstance when that's the case. It's more common that they're both gassed out on their feet trying to wing shots and just not getting them, I would suspect, but I don't know. Maybe because the skill difference is so much greater at flyweight that to establish the top control in the first place, you have to be better. That's a good theory. That's actually a really good theory. Maybe the loser getting a full round of blobbing and skewing the heavyweight data. True, could be. A lot of he's making good points about what the what the things are that skew data in the first place. Kind of goes back to my original point that like data can lie. It can trick you in a lot of ways. The original graph was only counting the winning fighter. Interesting. All right, fair enough.
So why do flyweights have a higher average control time? The answer is in wrestling activity. Here we see flyweights are a lot more active with their takedowns. Flyweights attempt and land more takedowns per minute than heavyweights, which happens to be the main driver behind their greater average control time.
There you go.
Here's one more for you. Do you think a submission is more or less likely the longer a fight goes?
All right. This is a pretty basic question. Is a submission more or less likely the longer the fight goes? Well, when do most submissions take place, period? I always want to say that submissions happen round 2, but I think that that's just me hedging a lot of the time when I do my verdict picks and I say round 2 submission. How many times can you think of a submission late in the fight in general? Yuri over Glover. That was a late round submission. Honestly, I don't think I've ever really considered it all that much when these submissions happen in general. So, interesting question. I don't know. Chat, your thoughts? Lesson later. You're talking lesson later rounds? Sweat, blood, and exhaustion later rounds. Okay. Islam versus Dustin. There you go. That's another good answer, John. That's another good answer. Yeah. But are we only picking out the select ones that we know about? You know what I mean? Like, think about all of the submissions. Jacob last card. Very good call. Very good call. That's a really, really good call. Yeah, fucking Neil Magny versus Jake Matthews, right? After Neil Magny almost got submitted in the first, I believe he was in the third that he got the submission against Matthews. Am I wrong? So, I mean, it does happen. But is that the majority, though? That's what's the question here. I don't know. I guess we'll find out here in a second, but I like the thought process. It's like we can think that what I'm saying is like I like the fact that we're thinking of all of these examples that we know of, but like what is the majority when it comes to all that, you know?
I always assumed fatigue had a large impact on submission likelihood. I think of guys like Islam and Khabib melting their opponents with pressure and then getting submissions later on in the fight. But Actually, the data tells us that submissions become less likely the longer a fight goes. This chart shows us the likelihood of submission for each round, conditional on the fight actually reaching that round. All fights have a first round, so the first data point shows us the submission rate for all fights, which is 20%. We then see this drop to 13% if a fight goes past the first round, and down to 6% if a fight gets to the third round. Interestingly, we do see a slight uptick in submission likelihood to 7% if a fight goes to the fourth round. This could potentially be that melting effect we talked about. But then it drops to just 3% if a fight reaches the fifth and final round.
That is absolutely fucking fascinating and crazy to think. Crazy to think that 20% is the high watermark for round one in general. So that being said, I don't know what the actual statistical analysis would say between these, because I don't think that if you just add these up, it equals up to the actual percentage. But either way, only a 20% as far as the highest likelihood of a submission period then in fights. It's not a high percentage right there. So interesting to pair that with knockouts and think what the actual percentage of finishes period in fights are. Because if 20% accounts for the high watermark as far as submissions go, then the finish rate of fights in general has to be pretty low, I would say. Something like what? Maybe 45%? If not, 45 is way too high. It's got to be something more like what? Like maybe 30% total? Again, because this is not the likelihood of submissions, period. This is the likelihood of if there is a submission, 20% the likelihood being in round one. So, I don't know. Again, I'm not a numbers guy, so it's hard for me to actually pull random actual accurate numbers out of my ass, but it's just crazy to me to think about this. And also use this for your verdict right here. This 3, 4, and 5 number right here should be very much what you're looking at when it comes to your verdict, because rounds 1, 2, and 3, if it's a 3-round fight, diminishing returns all the way down to round 3. If it's a 5-round fight, it's a little bit more of a all over the place thing, but at the end of the day, still way more likely to happen in the first round. So interesting points to keep aware of.
So in general, the longer a fight goes, the less likely a submission. I think the implication here is that latching onto a submission early when you have the greatest capacity to squeeze and a dry opponent could be a better strategy than exerting energy trying to wear them out or jumping a ghillie in the later rounds. So that's it, the 5 things I found interesting when analysing the data. If you liked it, hit subscribe.
All right, good deal. All right, so I'm liking it so far. I guess we're going to finish up here with finding out if the Brits can wrestle. We're going to analyze the data to find out the accuracy and efficacy of British wrestling in mixed martial arts in the UFC. Crazy. What a crazy world we live in that this is actually a possibility, but let's dig into it. And also, before we get started, folks, just remember that if you have a link, we'll pick one and we'll start with that. We'll see how long it takes to get through it, and then we'll see if we do another one. But we might end up just picking 1 or 2 for today, depending on how long we have ended up going, because, we always go for a while around here. So we're going to be at about 2 hours probably at the end of this. We'll see if we get more than one video in today. But if you've got links, keep them handy for after this, and I will jump over to the YouTube chat. You can throw them in the chat, and I will pick one at random.
When I first started watching the UFC, there was this stigma attached to British fighters, and that was that they couldn't wrestle. If you watched fights like Michael Bisping versus Tim Kennedy, or Dan Hardy versus GSP, you could probably see where the stigma was coming from. But that's a bit unfair, right? Those guys were fighting elite grapplers. Plus, anyone who's followed Bisping's career knows he had some pretty high-level anti-grappling. What about the time Brad Pickett dominated future GOAT Demetrius Johnson in the WEC with some wrestling of his own? Does that not count for anything?
That's a whole lot to digest right there. Obviously, a little bit of British bias on his behalf, perhaps. I mean, obviously a little bit of a skew on that, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I ever necessarily thought about it all that deeply, if the Brits can wrestle or not. We've got Paddy. He's pretty good. A lot of the Brits don't even seem to try to wrestle, right? Nathaniel Wood has never gone for a takedown in his life. Jake Hadley. Who else? MVP? Not a great wrestler, but was able to at least not get submitted. I don't know. It's an interesting question that I don't think I've ever really fully considered.
I want to know once and for all, is the stigma true? Was it true back then? And is it true now? Patriotic bias aside, my assumption is that British fighters used to have below average wrestling, but that's no longer the case. I also assume British fighters have always had above average striking and grappling that's about on par with the rest of the roster. But what will the data tell us? To do this analysis, I've computed all the key stats relating to wrestling, striking and grappling, and I've compared how British fighters stack up against their non-British counterparts. Actually, I should say UK fighters, as I've included those from Northern Ireland as well.
I mean, I don't know, man. I think you're skewing your data set. I think this guy literally just skewed his own data set right now. UK fighters is not the same as British fighters. The video is called Can Brits Wrestle? Northern Ireland might be part of the UK, but is not part of Britain. Just saying, I don't know if you can do that. I think that is now, it's padding your statistics. Random, but I wonder what the betting odds on Bobby Green submitting Tony Ferguson were. Probably astronomically low. I would think that would have been like a plus, probably like one or like 1,200 plus 1,200 sounds about right. Rick Allen says, "Did you hear that Dawson's Creek guy died?" Yes, I did hear. James Vanderbeek passed away. Yes, that is sad. He was not very old also. Yeah. They got to cure cancer one of these days, man. Yeah, I felt bad for that. I saw a video that he had put out, someone was sharing after he passed away, talking about, being worthy of love and all of these kinds of things, and pondering his mortality and stuff, and just sucks. It sucks to see someone like that who was really trying to make it, and obviously had a family, had a wife, and I believe multiple children. Yeah, really sucks. R.I.P. to him. I didn't know much about him. Never watched Dawson's Creek, but just one of those things, man. It sucks. Good friend of mine is grappling with mortality right now, and a close relative of his that is possibly and potentially going to be passing away very soon, and I feel for him in a major way. So something I am keenly aware of is our mortality and how you utilize the time that you have. So I guess really that's the only thing that I can say in a positive is life is short. Use it to the fullest that you can. And of course, what that really means is by being in the chat on the Yama stream. People, you are living your life to the fullest by being right here with me right now. You watch Dawson's Creek religiously, you liar. I don't think I ever saw an episode of that show. I do know that Katie Holmes was on it. That I remember, because I thought she was a little baddie back in the day. But that's about it.
So let's get into it. Let's start with...
I would tell you if that was true, bro. I've watched all kinds of things that you could mock me for, and I'm very open and proud of those things. But Dawson's Creek, not among them.
The wrestling. One of the biggest discrepancies we find here is the difference in average control time. UK fighters control their opponent for an average of 18% of a given fight, but are controlled for an average of 24% of the fight by their opponent. I.e., if a fight goes 15 minutes, we can expect the non-UK fighter to have a control position for 3 minutes and 36 seconds, and the UK fighter to have a control position for only 2 minutes 42 seconds.
So, question answered. Thanks for coming to your TED Talk, right? There's a whole lot more video left, so I guess there's more to it. But that would, in a general sense, be the end of it, I would think. Who is a famous person you met? I met Giovanni Ribisi recently on the streets of Toronto. That's kind of neat. I like Giovanni Ribisi. I've always thought he's a good actor, even though sadly he's a Scientologist. But the most famous person I met a couple. I mean, I've met a decent amount of famous people, actually, like in a general, if you're kind of digging into it. Let's see. I mean, MMA related, I met Mark Coleman at UFC Tampa. I met Dean Thomas. I met Michael Bisping. Non-MMA related, I met Trevor Noah. Used to be the host of The Daily Show, just hosted the Grammys not too long ago. I met him in Montreal. Most of the famous people that I met were when I was in Montreal for laughs. But I met Trevor Noah. I met Nate Bargatze, the comedian. He was very nice. I talked to him for a while. I met Brian Posen, who famous to me anyway. Other famous people. I mean, I've met both members of the Insane Clown Posse. I've met both members of Twisted. Who else? Teller from Penn and Teller. I met him. So, I don't know. I guess it depends on how famous you consider any of those people, but I've met those all. You would get punched for watching Dawson's Creek back in the day? Bro, there were baddies on it. I never understood this. Like, there are hot chicks on the show. I can understand people wanting to watch for the hot chicks. You know, the internet was new. It was harder to get porn. Yeah, he's a Scientologist, but a very nice guy. It was cool when I met him, shook hands, told him I like Boiler Room. Yeah, I think he's a great actor, personally. I think he's a really solid actor. What Felony Bennett fight did you see live? I saw him fight at Gamebred Bare Knuckle 5. I forget who his opponent was, but I saw him fight at Gamebred Bare Knuckle in Orlando, Florida. So, whoever he was fighting on that card. Yeah, it was great. He won that fight too, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure he did. All I remember, I don't remember if he won or lost. What I do remember very clearly is he walked out in a weed onesie. Classic Felony Bennett walkout in a marijuana leaf onesie with the hood up. Nate is a decent comedian, bit repetitive though. He needs to come up with new material. I don't think I have ever seen his stand-up, actually. I know that's kind of crazy, but because I know he's very popular now. Chase loves him. He's one of Chase's favorite comedians. But yeah, I don't think I've ever actually seen him do stand-up. I just knew I didn't know who he was at the time. He had not really broken yet as a household name when I met him in Montreal. But yeah, he was, I guess, on the come up at the time, and yeah, again, very nice guy. He was really super nice. He talked. I was there with my co-producer of the show that I was working on, and he took time to talk to us. He was interested in the project we were working on and stuff. Like, yeah, good guy. Nothing negative to say about him or Trevor Noah.
Interestingly, this is not driven by the UK fighters' inability to stuff a takedown. UK fighters stuff 62% of takedowns, which is about on par with the rest of the roster. One of the drivers behind the difference in control time comes down to offensive wrestling activity. Non-UK fighters shoot more on UK fighters than UK fighters do on them, which translates into more takedowns landed.
Yeah, but if they're not confident in their wrestling ability, then of course they're not shooting for more takedowns. If they have an inherent knowledge that their wrestling isn't good, then why would they shoot for takedowns? Bro, it's called YouTube. You can just watch a clip of his stand-up. I don't need to. Like, I mean, I would if someone, like, I don't know. Like, I don't feel the need to seek it out. If I come across it, I'll watch it. But like, I don't know. I just never had the urge or desire to. I mean, I'm sure he's fine. Like, I don't know. Send me one, Rick. Send me a Nate Bargatze clip that I need to see.
Which is shown here. One other factor explaining the discrepancy in control time is the difference in reversal rate. I wasn't sure whether to classify this as wrestling or grappling, but regardless, UK fighters only hit reversals on 9% of the takedowns they suffer, considerably lower than the 12% reversal rate of their opponents.
I mean, you're proving the point that Brits can't wrestle pretty readily right now, my guy.
Sticking with the grappling stats, UK fighters also have a higher submission loss rate than they do win rate, likely a result of the control discrepancy. So this really hasn't painted a rosy picture, but fear not, there is good news for UK fight fans watching. Let's turn our attention to the striking stats. Although UK fighters throw and land less strikes overall, those that they do throw and land on their opponent are more likely to be significant, which is shown here. To be honest, the difference does seem negligible.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're talking about a difference of 0.06%. Or 0.06. I don't know what the actual... Oh, it's per minute, I guess. Not a percentage, but still, 3.49 versus 3.43. This is not exactly a damning indictment here.
But when you examine the knockout rate, you start to see a more pronounced difference. UK fighters knock out their opponent in 31% of their wins, versus being knocked out in only 26% of their losses. Of course, this is at least partly explained by the UK fighters' lower propensity to submit their opponent, but it's also explained by more effective striking.
Well, and having a tougher chin, I would think, right? I think that's what you should really be hanging your hat on as a UK guy, is that, Scousers don't get knocked out. I mean, that would be what I would think, right? I mean, like, yeah, you could chalk it up to lack of takedowns and good striking as well, good striking defense and all that kind of stuff. But still, I mean, I think that there's probably got to be something to be said for the intangible of a strong and sturdy chin.
When you look at the number of total strikes landed and the number of stoppages related to strikes, we find that strikes landed by UK fighters are much more likely to result in a stoppage. So we've got a summary of UK fight stats, and you could probably make the argument that perhaps the stigma is true, the data reflects a weakness in the wrestling. And to be honest, it's not really surprising. Wrestling and grappling are not part of the culture here like they are in places like the US, Russia and Brazil.
And now we have the data to back that fact up. So there you go. Maybe that's what you need to do, is make it more of a part of the culture. Make wrestling part of your world, just like The Little Mermaid.
But times have changed. The modern British fighter is a different breed.
Uh-oh.
We have the likes of Tom Aspinall, Leon Edwards, Arnold Allen, Lerone Murphy, Paddy Pimblett, Nathaniel Wood.
Okay, so of these fighters, you've got Tom, who can actually wrestle. Leon, who at least cannot get taken down, so it's like, oh, that's a little bit weaker. Arnold Allen, decent, but still, loses. Lerone Murphy, not exactly known for his wrestling necessarily, but can hold his own. Paddy, I think, is a good point there. And then Nathaniel Wood, who, like I said, I don't think he's ever shot for a takedown ever in his entire career. So I don't know if this is proving your point necessarily.
I don't think anyone would say those guys have a glaring weakness in their wrestling.
I mean, glaring weakness in their wrestling? I mean, but if we're just talking defensive wrestling, then okay, I'll give you that if you're just talking defensive wrestling, perhaps. But like, at least half of that list does not offensively wrestle. So, I don't know. Till is a Scouser and Masvidal knocked him out, so that is already proven false. Good point, Rick Allen. That is actually a Good point.
But does the data agree? To answer that, I took some of the key stats mentioned earlier and checked to see how they looked before and after 2016. One of the biggest changes we observe is in the average control time enforced by their opponent. Pre-2016, we see UK fighters controlled for an average of 29% of the fight. When looking at the last 10 years, this drops to 21%. The stuff rate and reversal rate hasn't improved, so this doesn't explain the reduction in control. The main driver appears to be a large reduction in the number of takedowns attempted by their opponents, dropping from 5.25 per 15 minutes to 3.75. Why this happened is not entirely clear. It could be that UK fighters have improved the threat of their own takedown, as we see them shooting and landing more takedowns on average, though this hasn't translated to an increase in control time, which still sits at 18%. The threat of submission has also marginally improved, which could deter shots. The submission win rate hasn't significantly increased, but the success rate of submissions attempted has, which is shown here.
I mean, I don't think that people being scared of being submitted by a British person is really driving that. Like, oh, these guys have gotten better at wrestling, so I'm not gonna shoot on them, or I'm not gonna try to make it a wrestling match. Like, that seems like an odd correlation. That's kind of what I was talking about earlier with like certain things not actually meaning what you are trying to fit them into the box of meaning. But whatever, I guess.
Perhaps it's that UK fighters have moved away from a boxing heavy style, adopting more of an MMA base, which leaves less openings for takedowns.
That I think tracks better. That I think actually tracks better, is that UK fighters are becoming more mixed martial artists in a general sense.
Perhaps it's improvements to fence work. Perhaps it's more effective striking. Significant strike accuracy does marginally improve. Let me know your theories in the comments. Whatever it is, I think we can somewhat dispel the stigma that Brits can't wrestle.
I think you just proved the I think you proved the myth to be true. I don't know if I'm agreeing with your takeaway here. I mean, yeah, okay. What I will say is that it's like if you're saying that in a very serious sense, that Brits just across the board cannot wrestle, then yeah, that is not necessarily true in an MMA capacity. I mean, they certainly can hold their own in a defensive sense. But I think you literally just spent an entire video telling us why that's the truth, and then tried to say, oh, but they can wrestle though. I mean, I guess if that's what you want to conclude from all that data, but I would think that that data just showed you almost exactly the opposite of that. But again, I think that this really comes down to semantics, because it's like if you're saying Brits are physically unable to do wrestling in any sense, defense or offense, then yes, that is provably false. But I still think that there is, some, like, if we're talking in a figurative sense, then there is still a decent amount of validity to the statement based on the data that was just shown.
All of this culminates in the best stat I have to share with the UK viewers. The win rate for UK fighters before 2016 was sitting below average at 49%. It jumps up to 55% if we look at the last 10 years, meaning we must be doing something right. So there it is, my friends.
There you go. A nice little positive takeaway in general. UK fighters are getting better at UK fighting in general. They're fighting more effectively and doing it better over time. So UK is on the come up, 49% to 55% win rate. Take that to the UK bank right there. I love it. Congratulations to all of our English friends for these massive improvements. So, all right. Well, I guess that is about it for Purple Belt Analytics and his video set here. So shout out to Purple Belt Analytics. I am already subscribed on my other channel, so I am subscribed to Purple Belt Analytics. I would recommend that you also subscribe to Purple Belt Analytics if you are not subscribed already. This guy is doing some interesting videos. He's making some cool, interesting stuff. He does have a lot of shorts as well. I don't know if all of these are just based on clips of the videos that we just saw? It looks like they are. So we're not going to go through the shorts, but the videos are good. So, I recommend you subscribe to this guy. Give him some support. I appreciate him putting these videos out for us to watch. So I'm going to take a very quick break, and we will come back, and it will be time. So hold on. Before I go to break, what I'm going to do this over here. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to go to YouTube, and I'm going to go, give me 1 second, to Yamma. Excuse me. Pause myself there. And now I am going to pop this out. All right. So I now have our chat popped out. And what I will do is when I come back from my break, hopefully I will see some links in this chat. And from them, I will pick one of those videos, and that will be what we watch next. So if you've got a video that you want for me to watch next, put it in the chat now, and I will check it out on the other side of the break. Do not go away. I am back. Break time is over. And what am I greeted with when I come back? One suggestion. People, I gotta say, I'm feeling a little let down by this. CTE, goated. This is why he has the wrench or the shield now, whatever this new symbol is. But CTE coming through with the suggestion. So, I mean, I'll give you another little minute to throw something else in the chat, but if you do not, then the answer is now clear. CTE getting his way by virtue of being the only based member of chat to be throwing in a link. Surely CTE cannot be the only real one in the chat right now, people. So I will wait, but only for a moment. Shit, maybe CTE is the only one here. Is there no one else in the chat right now? Everybody else leave? Either way, I guess then whatever this is going to be it. So I will at least get this link copied. Bring it in. See what it is. Take a look here. Preview this for just a moment.
This past weekend, we saw in
There we go. Connell's Combat, the most underrated way to defend takedowns. Okay. All right. Sounds good to me. Oh, John Dong is still here? All right. Awesome. Appreciate you, John Dong. Well, then, if this is the case, then, I mean, I guess the answer has become clear, folks. Looks like this is what we are doing. Shout out to CTE. But let's get it going here.
This past weekend, we saw in two different
All right. Next video is locked in. So this is the most underrated way to defend takedowns. This is Connell's Combat, posted 8 days ago. Let's see what Connell and his combat are all about. And shout out to CTE for bringing this to the show. Thank you, sir. All right, here we go.
This past weekend, we saw in two different bouts a very effective yet underrated method of defending takedowns. A method that both defends the takedown and punishes the takedown attempter. And no, it isn't a guillotine. When looking to complete a takedown, there are 4 lines of defense you must pass through. First is the range. No matter how quick your takedown entry is, if you are standing 30 feet away from your opponent, you will not be able to take them down.
Nice. Gamrot would still try and shoot from here. That's funny. But I mean, yes, we are off to a good start because you are correct. If you are not close enough, if you do not close the distance, then takedowns are not going to happen. So off to a sound, logical beginning here.
So range for the person defending the takedown is the first line of defense. If they do get past your range, the second line of defense is your head and your hands. I'm sure if you've wrestled before, you've heard this, the head-hands defense. If you are unable...
What was that little image there? The Complete Guide to Wrestling Defense, Volume 1, Head, Hands, Defense, and Counterattacks. Okay. So, yes. Again, this is all tracking, head and hands. True. I mean, you see it every time that somebody goes for a takedown. That's the first thing is when your opponent level changes, generally you also level change. You drop down to meet them, at least in part. You basically the image that he has here is a good example of it, or this little clip that he was just playing. I mean, you see it right here. Opponent tries to level change, you dip down to meet them in the position. Gamrot would try to shoot from here. Yes. And he would. That's a true fact.
Head-hands defense. If you are unable to get by the frames that the head and the hands can create, you will not be able to complete your takedown. The third line of defense is the hips. If you do manage to get through the range and the head and the hands, you can still get your face sprawled into the floor. Sprawling...
True. Yeah. This is all very factual so far. Sprawling, I think, one of the most impressive... Excuse me. Good Lord. This is killing me what is happening today with the post-nasal drip. But, yeah, I think sprawling is one of the more impressive things that you see when we're talking about defense. You see Damon Blackshear here doing that. Yeah, a good sprawl completely negates it. And, yeah, I think it's one of the best the best tactics that you can do, really, because it kind of does exactly what Damon Blackshear is achieving here and what this person, Connell, over here has said. You do an accurate sprawl at that area of the mat out in open water, and your opponent eats a face full of mat.
Is the most common line of defense to keep your opponent from getting to your hips. There is one final defense, even if your opponent has successfully begun a takedown attempt, and that is balance. Specifically, for a single leg, you still have your balance to keep.
Yeah, I was going to say, when he says balance, I'm like, you're talking single leg, obviously, and then, of course, he shows the image, so yes, for single leg. And we've seen some very impressive feats of balance in the UFC. I'm always amazed. Guys going for single leg, dude will literally one-leggedly hop, 1 foot hop his way all the way back to the cage and somehow not get taken down that way. It's like, God damn, dude, how do you do that? How do you keep that balance? And B, I'm always waiting for the opponent to do what Islam Makhachev did to Dustin Poirier, which is fucking whip crack him, dude. I mean, like every time you got a single leg here, this position that you're looking at right here is a perfect example of it. Like if I think that is this Aldo who's hopping backwards here? You know, the dude is getting single legged. Looks like Aldo. So I'll say it's Aldo. All you have to do is as he hops backwards, instead of just going with him, holding the leg kind of underneath your stomach like that, let him get a little bit more distance and then just twerk your body up and under. You essentially pull off a flipping motion of the leg and the pull at the same time. You go swoop like that. One solid movement. And if he's far enough back, then the center of gravity is going to be thrown off just inherently by the amount of force that you put on the swooping motion, and you're turning the leg at the same time. So I don't understand why more people don't go for that. And that's another reason why Islam is so amazing that he pulled that off. Jan did pretty well against Merab. True. Well, there's reasons though, right? Want to believe anyway. But, you know, that's Merab would say there are reasons. I think the real reason is because Petr Yan is goated. And I think it actually also comes down to exactly what Chase had said, which was that after Yan lost the first fight, all he did was drill takedown defense for however many days between the first fight and the second fight. We're going to have to see if they're going to give Merab a rematch, you know? Maybe Merab's going to be on the White House card. Think about that. Probably not, but I don't know. Could be.
Keep you standing. So once you get by these 4 lines of defense, you can finally complete your takedown. Wait a second. There's actually one more.
The last resort techniques. Okay. So we've got additional takedown defense, and we're going to find out what the most underrated one of them is. He has got to get a rematch. We'll see. Okay. This is the big debate, right? What I always say is that I believe that rematches should be reserved for fights that were very close when it comes to title fights. Even though Merab was doing extremely well as champion, and I thought was going to be one of the most dominant champions we were ever going to see in this sport. I thought for a while there, I was like, when Merab beat Umar, I was like, if he beats Umar, no one's beating him. There's no way. He's too good. He's too good at what he does. He's too savvy. He's too fast. There is no beating him, is what I thought. Then Petr Yan comes in, and not only does he beat him, he beats him so badly. I mean, it was a trouncing, that fight. You can give Merab maybe 1 round of that thing, I believe. Some people thought it was a 50-45. So that being said, I'm like, does he deserve an immediate rematch? You can say he does because of all the great things he has done in the division already, which is a valid enough answer, I guess. But I just, like, Sean Strickland versus Dricus du Plessis, that was a deserved rematch to me. I don't know if I can say the same for Merab, and it hurts my heart as a huge Merab fan. Hey, Yuri is here. Yuri of the Carolina Tardids. How are you, brother? Good to see you, man. What up, Yuri?
Your opponent has made it through these lines of defense, and you are on the way to getting taken down. There is still the last resort techniques.
All right,
the most popular of these last resort techniques is, of course, the ghillie, which I spoke about in my last video. But say
when he showed the picture of the crowd saying "do it," I really seriously for a sec. God damn it! Excuse me. Apologize tonight, guys. When he showed the picture of the crowd saying "do it," I seriously for a second thought he was going to say that an effective takedown defense would be grabbing your opponent's dick and twisting it.
Say your opponent is so quick to get to the takedown that you are unable to even start threatening the guillotine. Well, this past weekend, both Jakub Wiklax and Mario Bautista showed us the other very underrated last resort technique.
All right, what is it? What's it gonna be?
You see here, all of Wicklax's lines of takedown defense have been conquered, and he is on his way to the mat. As Wicklax is lifted into the air, he is adjusting his legs and inserting butterfly hooks. If you have trained some jiu-jitsu, you'll recognize this term, but in case not, a butterfly hook is placing your shin and foot on your opponent's inner thigh. These butterfly hooks, when used well, serve the purpose of off-balancing and elevating your opponent into the air.
There you go. Very important to know as an MMA fan. Obviously important to know as a fighter, but as a fan, anytime that you see those ankles, you know, basically the joint area, basically of the foot where the ankle begins, going into the thigh area, that's what we're talking about here, and that's what's going to get that opponent hopefully off of the fighter that's trying to dig the butterflies in. And if you ever hear me on the broadcast when we're doing the watch along saying, why is he not getting his butterflies in there? That's what they're talking about. Hey, Bleeding Edge is here. Bleeding Edge, the Houston homie. How are you, sir? Good to see you, brother. Made it just in time for a grab his dick and twist it joke. There you go. Then you really did make it just in time. Hope you are doing well this very fine evening, Bleeding Edge. Out there saving lives. Taking wives and saving lives. That is the life of Bleeding Edge, the nurse practitioner. That's what I want to believe. That's just me. Maybe I'm spuriously applying this. You know, we were just talking about statistics earlier and data points, but I'm just believing that to be the truth in my own mind, you know? Taking wives and saving lives. Sounds good to me. It's good to be the king. It's good to be Bleeding Edge MMA.
It is using the largest muscles in your body, your glutes and your thighs, to keep your opponent's hips away from you while elevating their legs, which removes their connection to the ground. Often, traditionally taught butterfly sweeps start from a standstill position in open guard. But what makes using butterfly hooks in the last resort situation so great is the momentum is already there with the takedown. You see, as Wicklax lands, the butterfly hook is in and the space is created between them.
Interesting. So he's saying put the butterfly hooks in before, like if you were in that position that Vic Vosh was in, you'd put the butterfly in as you're being taken down and then use the momentum that the body in motion is already going to have to force the legs up and over because you have the hooks already secured. Interesting take on that, and definitely like that all tracks in a real way. That's I don't think that would have been something that I was like consciously putting together in my mind, but the way that he is spelling it out makes a lot of sense.
Gafarov slides up closer to the knee of Wicklax, but the purpose remains the same. Wicklax extends his leg, and notice the overhook he has on Gafarov's left arm. Usually butterfly sweeps are paired with overhooks, because once you disconnect your opponent's legs from the ground, they will try to use their arms to connect themselves to the ground. And the overhook serves to remove one method of connection. You see how Wicklax's butterfly hook and overhook are on opposite sides. This is the way most butterfly sweeps are set up, because the butterfly hook elevates your opponent in the direction of the arm that you trapped. But in this instance, Wicklax had trapped the arm on the cage side, so if he attempted to sweep him in the proper direction, given his overhook and butterfly hook, Gafarov would have remained elevated because of the cage. Instead, Wicklax used his non-butterfly hook leg to post his foot against the cage and elevated Gafarov even higher.
That's wild. Holy shit. That's crazy, dude. Oh my god. This is why like channels like this are really great, because it's like these are the kind of guys that like really break down all of the actual like sequential elements of a combined sequence. Sequential elements of a sequence, but you know what I'm saying? Like all of the points of the sequence that create the movement because that's really fascinating. Also, I mean, the fact that Vic Vosh was able to do it without it being illegal, I don't know. It didn't look like he hooked his toe. So how did he get the friction on the cage to be able to actually use it to push himself is the question. Because, like, if you go back, let's see how far back. So yeah, if you see here, I mean, are his toes hooked right there? They gotta be, right? Pushing/digging into the fence for leverage. I guess if he wasn't hooking his toes, it's still technically legal, but not really, though. So, I mean, technically this is an illegal move, right? I mean, it's got to be. Yes, his toes are in the cage. Most definitely. So, I don't know. I don't know about that one. Still an impressive move to be able to pull off, but I don't think you're able to. This would not be a move that you could have gotten away with in a ring. You know what I mean? Nobody's doing this shit in one championship unless they are right on the corner post.
And elevated Gafarov even higher.
Because, yeah, I mean, think about that. Like, we're talking about momentum. Well, so, I mean, I guess that's what you could say is that, oh, well, he just used the momentum, but yeah, it's only illegal if the ref calls it. That's another good point. But yeah, because if you look at the start of this thing, the basic thing that he's talking about is that this is going to become this, and then this becomes this. So, I don't know. It seems like this is a little bit of a fishy one. Maybe he's going to talk about that in a minute here, but let's give him a shot.
Trap the arm on the cage side, so if he attempted to sweep him in the proper direction, given his overhook and butterfly hook, Gafarov would have remained elevated because of the cage. Instead, Whitlock's used his non-butterfly hook leg to post his foot against the cage and elevated Gafarov even higher. Whitlock's elevated Gafarov and himself so high he was able to flip Gafarov over his own head and end up in the mount. A great benefit of using the butterfly hooks as a takedown defense is instead of all the other lines of defense which end up in a neutral position, if successfully done, the butterfly hooks can lead to reversals.
I just want to point out, Chase Parton will know exactly what I'm talking about, but the goated trainer, Budokan, of the film Bruised, speaks of this. If you remember the film Bruised, Budokan giving some absolutely sage advice when it comes to butterfly defense. Just saying. If you haven't seen Bruised, I mean, you know, you can take it or leave it, but if you want to see Bruised and then watch our review of the film Bruised, it's a great discussion about that film. The longest review of that film ever put to video.
Which turns the takedown attempt against the takedown attempter. This punishes and could discourage wrestlers from shooting takedowns, just as a good guillotine would. This would be a great counter style against someone like Merab, who won't get discouraged shooting over and over, but if their takedowns end up in them on the bottom of the mount, or being controlled for a large portion of time, that could certainly discourage them.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad point. I wanted to see, I didn't read all this stuff that was on screen there, but I did want to see what he was getting at with that. Oh, wrong way. There we go. The spam wrestler wants to attempt a bunch of takedowns, wants to constantly make you think about the takedown. The mere threat of the takedown can make them more effective in the striking. I mean, kind of really a nice way to lay that out. And all the guys that he's putting on the screen, maybe with the exception of Colby, kind of fits that bill, you know? Merab, Kane, definitely back in the day. Gamrot, definitely. Colby, I mean, well, at his peak, maybe. But, you know, that's a while ago now. Tyler Betts, what's up, brother? How are you, man? Good to see you, bro. What is the word, my guy? Hope your Tyler betting is going well.
On the bottom of the mount, or being controlled for a large portion of time, that could certainly discourage them. Then, in the main event, Bautista hit his own butterfly sweep after getting taken down. Oliveira was on a single leg and tripped Bautista down. As both land, you see Bautista land with an overhook and the same side leg hooked to the inside of Oliveira's right leg. This is
I mean, he's going to go into a continued breakdown of all of this, and I'm sure that everything he's saying is going to be correct. However, I must also add the caveat that by this point of the fight, Vinicius Oliveira had literally zero cardio left at all. So Mario Bautista didn't have to do any high-level maneuvering to get this win. All he had to do was figure out any way under God's green sun, any way on God's green earth under God's hot, furious sun to get on top of Oliveira, and this fight would have already been over. But just saying, it's kind of an important point, the same as the toes in the cage was kind of important before, you know? There are extenuating circumstances going on with some of this stuff. Bird is the word. I have heard that before. Yes, I've heard that. I believe that it was right around the time of the Vietnam War was when I heard that. And also, again, watching the hit television show Family Guy. I don't know if you are familiar with that show, but it's on there.
is different than the Wicklocks example, but mechanically it works the same because Bautista is trapping the left arm and elevating the right leg. It doesn't matter that he is using the same-sided limbs to do this. What's important is that it is the opposite limbs for your opponent. The non-butterfly hook leg posts on the floor and elevates Oliveira, off-balancing him, and Bautista can end up on top. So when you're grappling rounds, if you are about to get taken down, think a step ahead and try finding your butterfly hooks. Even if it doesn't lead to a beautiful sweep, it off-balances your opponent and it makes them work harder, which makes their job of controlling you more difficult. And keep in mind that when you are trying to sweep your opponent, make sure you are elevating one side and trapping the other.
All right, let's just real quick read out the summary. Preemptively throw your butterfly hooks in as you're getting taken down. Probably just smart advice in general if you're able to. I mean, if you have to notice too, I mean, in the Bautista example, he didn't show the setup of this when they were actually still on the feet, which would have been pretty helpful in this equation. But Bautista already on the ground. Had he been on the feet to start this off during that takedown, it would have been a smart thing to do at that time as well. My point is that, like, you saw it in the Vic Wash example, the position that Jacob was in had him somewhat elevated, which made it a little bit easier to hook the leg as he was going down because his foot was already parallel to the thigh. So my point is that whenever anybody is in that kind of like elevated takedown position, it's probably just a smart idea to try to fish for the butterfly hook no matter what, because there's no disadvantage to having it. There's only an advantage to having it. So I think that that's just a good general note. Then the next note is use butterfly hooks in all kinds of positions to create space and off-balance your opponent. Another tried and true, very true statement. I mean, extremely true. Like, the butterfly is like one of the most important things that you can master when it comes to grappling in general. I mean, if you are on your back, the first and most important thing you need to be doing is getting the butterflies in so that you can get back to your feet. Most especially when you're out in open waters. When you're in the middle of the octagon, that's absolutely when you need to be doing that the most. You're trying for butterfly hooks, and you're also trying to scoot yourself back to the cage. Those are the two things that are going to allow you to get back to your feet. So, very accurate. And the final note here is when sweeping, trap an arm and elevate the opposite leg. I mean, this also, that I'd say is probably the less intuitive note of all of these, but only in the sense that it's hard to like recognize that in the moment, but very good point as well. Because in that position, in the Bautista example is a great one of those. You see, from here, he has to have the opposite leg be the one that gets pushed up and over, because that's going to be what's going to allow him to have the movement range and the position of the body is it just makes it such like he can't do it from the same side leg. He wouldn't be able to get the same amount of of force to get the up and over off of it. So I think that this all tracks pretty well. I like this video. This is actually really informative.
Make sure you are elevating one side and trapping the other.
Oh, and that was it. All right, there you go. So that is the video by Connell's Combat. Shout out to Connell. I like it. Yeah, I was not familiar with this channel. This is definitely another good one. Breaking down the science of movement here, the momentum changes and the physiological, not physiological, but I guess just the straight up physical aspects of the sport. You know, these are the X's and O's when it comes to MMA. So, all right. Well, I mean, you know, I have to say, guys, I was thinking that we were going to be doing more, but that's what we got in the chat. So I don't know. I guess that's going to be about it. I'll give one last view just to make sure that Restream didn't cheat me on anything. Go back over to the Yama Show chat here. But oh, come on. There we go. All right. Pause that. Why is the chat not showing up now? YouTube acting funky. Anybody affected by the YouTube downage that happened recently? There was some downtime on YouTube that was like affecting a lot of people. I noticed it, but it didn't actually like affect too much for me, so it was all good. But yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing anything else that Restream has missed, so I guess that's going to be about it. You know, a little bit of a shorter one. Hey, it's a weeknight. Not too bad that we only get 2.5 hours in. You were affected by YouTube's going down? Yeah. It was like, for me, it basically just took the homepage down, but like I was still able to go to individual channels and watch videos and stuff. So, you know, good deal. YouTube got it fixed. That's why they're the bosses, of course. You know, YouTube, my partial employer here. So thank you very much always to YouTube for being such a gracious host of my content. But I guess, yeah, I mean, that'll about do it for this week, or for this evening, I suppose. Didn't get as many recommendations for videos as I was expecting, so we'll see if we'll do this again sometime. Maybe we'll get some more recommendations in the chat, but either way, let's see what else is going on this week. So tomorrow night, I will probably not be on stream. There's a small percentage chance that I do end up being able to come back in time to get something out. We will see. I have a work thing that I got to do. I believe it goes from 5:30 to 7:30, so I won't be home until probably around like 8 o'clock, 8:30. So I know that there's a couple of fight events going on. If any of those start late enough that I can get the live in, we'll do that. Maybe we'll see about doing a restarted one or something like that, count it as a replay stream. We'll see how we play all of that out. It depends on what time I get home. So we'll either do something tomorrow night. Maybe we'll do a free-for-all. Haven't heard from Chase on Friday if he wants to do a free-for-all or not. We'll see about that as well. Maybe a video coming out. I was thinking about possibly throwing some thoughts in about Ronda versus Gina. I did say all of my thoughts in the video just here, then the live stream, but I was thinking about maybe talking about that on video, but I don't know if anybody really cares enough about that. So let me know if you want to see that video. You can leave it in the comments of this live stream when this thing goes dark. But either way, we will definitely, regardless of what ends up happening, regardless of not getting any more recommendations here, regardless of anything else this week, regardless of all other things, people, we will be back on Saturday. We have UFC on Saturday. We have Sean Strickland versus Anthony Fluffy Hernandez coming up this weekend, a fight I am super excited about. Really happy to talk about them on Monday on the podcast. Looking forward to these fights. The card is actually really good aside from the main event. So there's a lot of good stuff to be had on this upcoming card. We will be live for that. YouTube.com/@YamaShow. Jesus. another good reason why we're going to get done with this stream tonight. I got to let my voice rest, man. This has been too bad. This trying to talk through this post-nasal drip has been killing me. But again, thank you guys very much for being here. Like the stream if you haven't already. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. I will see you in the next one, everybody. Have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week, and as always, fight on.